Chapter 715. Yi Chun was not surprised by Xiao Yuanjing's actions. It was clear that this person wanted to use Bruce and the rest to deal with him. However, he did not care. Even Fire Emperor and Titan had died in his hands, so why would he care about Bruce and the rest? After realizing how powerful Yi Chun was, some people gave up on the idea of breaking through the iron chain bridge he was on. They turned their attention to Luo Tianya, Tang Yiming, Xiao Yuanjing, and the rest. However, they did not expect Luo Tianya and the rest to be as tough as Yi Chun. Within a few minutes, dozens of people died. At that moment, there were less than 50 people left. The river water had long been dyed red with blood, and corpses floated on the river surface. At that moment, Yuan Chitai, who was on the shore, mustered his courage and walked out. He looked at Yi Chun and said, "Mr. Yi, can you let us board the ghost ship?" As he spoke to this point, he knelt before Yi Chun on the spot and begged. "Mr. Yi, the previous leaders of the 4 tomb raiding sects were left on the ghost ship back then. We really want to look for them." Yi Chun nodded lightly and said, "Come on up." "Thank you, Mr. Yi." Yuan Chitai and the other 3 were extremely excited. They stepped onto the iron chain bridge, where Yi Chun was under everyone's envious gazes and stood behind him respectfully. Seeing that, the old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming, stood out as well. He cupped his fists and said, "Mr. Yi, may I know if I can board the ship?" "Patron Yi, as the #1 person in the Chinese cultivation world, I hope that you can allow us to board the ship on account that we share the same roots." Master Yijin and the old man with the sword also begged. Yi Chun agreed to them one by one. However, he stopped the weaker ones. After all, even if he let them board, they might not survive. Seeing that, Bai Xiaoyu smirked coldly. "This brat is smart." After knowing our purpose, he followed suit. The old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming, Master Yijin, and the rest were not weaker than Bruce and the rest. This way, the strength of both sides was considered balanced. On the other hand, no one went on to Shi Qianhan's iron chain bridge. "Let's go." Xiao Yuanjing led everyone onto the deck of the ghost ship. Everyone realized that the deck of the ghost ship was very spacious, like a small field. There were no signs of corrosion. Instead, it was very dry. Even with dozens of people standing on it, there were no signs of it collapsing. However, everyone subconsciously stood on the deck, not daring to enter the room on the side. Even though the room was brightly lit, there was not a single person in sight. Just as everyone was looking at each other, they saw Shi Qianhan take the lead and walk into the largest room. He seemed to be very familiar with the place. Everyone watched helplessly as he went in for a long time. Only after a long time did they secretly let out a sigh of relief. Speaking of which, it was funny. Before they boarded the ship, they fought with their lives on the line. Now that they were on the ship, they were afraid of death. "Let's go." Luo Tianya took a step forward and followed Shi Qianhan's footsteps. As he walked, he turned around and said, "Everyone follow my footsteps. Don't walk around and don't touch anything." Not long after, dozens of people walked into a relatively large room on the first floor of the ghost ship. The room was about 100 square meters in size. It was a little similar to an ancient palace. There were golden pillars with dragon patterns around it, and a few lanterns hung on the walls. Even under such a huge storm and with no one around, the lanterns were still bright and dazzling, exuding a strange aura. At the top of the room stood a throne made of gold. There was a stone staircase made of white marble between the throne and the ground. The most eye-catching thing was the throne. It was very dazzling. The armrests of the throne were like 2 dragon heads, and the dragon eyes were embedded with agate. Behind the throne was a mural carved from bronze. The images on the mural were covered in rust and were very blurry. Vaguely, one could see that they looked like ancient gods. Even though they had been corroded by the passage of time, they still gave off a soul-stirring aura. There were no tables, chairs, or benches in the room, so everyone maintained a standing posture and focused their attention on their surroundings. After a few seconds, Xiao Yuanjing said slowly, Shi Qianhan, you've been on the ghost ship once. Can you tell us what happened on the ship? Everyone was shocked and could not help but look at Shi Qianhan. Shi Qianhan's expression was extremely cold. Young Master Xiao, your Xiao clan and I are irreconcilable. Do you think I'll be so kind? You. Xiao Yuanjing's expression turned grim. At this moment, a scream suddenly came from the side. Everyone immediately looked up and saw an old woman's hand placed on a dragon-patterned golden pillar. What was terrifying was that her hand was rotting at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it didn't take long for the rot to spread to her body. Yuan Qitai's expression changed when he saw that. He wanted to charge over by instinct. Wenqing! Don't go over. Yi Qin stopped him at the right time. At the next moment, the old woman's hands, feet, and even her entire body had turned into a pool of thick water. There was only a set of clothes mixed with blood on the ground. The blood was bubbling and steaming. Wenqing, Yuan Qitai, and the other two were devastated. They did not expect that their old friend of decades would meet with an accident the moment she boarded the ship, and she would die so miserably. The rest could not help but change their expressions. They had been on guard the moment they boarded the ship. When they realized that there was nothing special, some of them slowly relaxed their vigilance. Now that the old woman had ended up like this, their hearts were in their throats again. There's corpse poison on the golden pillar. Everyone be careful. Master Yijin's expression changed, and he immediately reminded everyone. Then, he slowly walked to the pool of blood. He held prayer beads in his hand and chanted, Namo Amitabha Doda Goddanite. Even the old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming, burned a spirit talisman and threw it on the pool of blood. May the heavenly venerable of mysterious Lingbao of the Taishan cave and the heavenly venerable of Tai and Nirvana receive us. I forgot to tell you guys, it's best not to touch anything on the ship. Shi Qianhan only spoke then. However, he was looking at Yi Qin. Among everyone present, he only cared about Yi Chen's life. An old man next to Yuan Qitai glared at him. Damn it. If that's the case, why didn't you remind us earlier? If that's the case, Wenqing wouldn't have died. Shi Qianhan's expression remained unchanged. What does your life and death have to do with me? That person was furious. Just as he was about to flare up, he suddenly felt the entire ghost ship shake violently. He staggered and fell to the ground. The rest were not much better. They channeled their true energy to resist the jolt with shock on their faces. The commotion was simply too great, as if the entire ship was about to flip over. The ghost ship is about to return. Only Shi Qianhan was not worried. Instead, he was happy. His expression was gentle. I'll be able to see you soon. Wait for me. Chapter 716. The ghost ship is about to return. As Shi Qianhan's voice fell, the entire ghost ship shook violently, and it shook even more violently. It was as if there were surging waves crashing against the ship's hull, but the items on the ship did not move at all. How is this returning? The ship is clearly about to capsize. Oh no, I am seasick. Are we going to die on this ship? Under such an earth-shattering change, everyone frantically tried to stabilize themselves. Some people were even so frightened that they started crying on the spot. Divine fist created in 33 days, heaven-shaking stomp. Yi Qin took a deep breath in. He stood steadily on the ship as if he had taken root. The ship was shaking more and more violently. The people outside who did not board the ship were shocked to discover that the entire ghost ship was spinning rapidly on the spot, as if a mysterious force was controlling it. The ghost ship spun faster and faster. In the end, it created a shocking wave that was like a tornado, and a vacuum appeared below the ghost ship. The vacuum was similar to a door that was nearly 30 meters wide. As the ghost ship spun rapidly, a crack slowly appeared on the door. The crack revealed a mysterious and ancient aura, like the entrance to an unknown world. With a flash of white light, The ghost ship passed through the crack in the blink of an eye. The crack gradually closed until it disappeared. The entire river finally returned to normal. However, there was no sign of the ghost ship as far as the eye could see. A bone-piercing sea breeze blew, and the people who stayed on the shore could not help but shiver. Someone said with trembling lips, Why did they suddenly disappear?" However, no one responded to him. Although some people were immersed in the previous incident, that scene was probably something they would never forget for the rest of their lives. Almost at the moment when the ghost ship appeared on the surface of the river, someone could not hold it in anymore. He collapsed to the ground and vomited. His face was pale. The change just now was as if the entire sky was about to be turned upside down. Some people couldn't hold it in any longer. They fell limply to the ground and vomited repeatedly. Their faces were pale, and it was as if the entire sky was about to be turned upside down. Luo Tianya said in a low voice, "The ghost ship is moving." "Where is the ghost ship going?" Xiao Yuanjing, who was in the crowd, frowned. Everyone subconsciously looked out of the ghost ship, trying to see its trajectory. However, to their horror, the ghost ship was shrouded in endless black fog. The black fog completely blocked everyone's vision. The old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming's expression changed. "Not good. The black fog is trying to surge in." Only then did everyone realize that something was wrong. The black fog outside the ghost ship surged into the doors and windows crazily, as if it wanted to fill the entire ghost ship. "Close the door! Close the windows!" Shi Qianhan's expression changed. He seemed to have thought of something and immediately exclaimed. Then he flashed over to block the door of the room. Seeing how nervous he was, the rest of the people didn't dare to hesitate and rushed to the windows around them. A young man in the Shao clan's camp extended his hand towards the window, wanting to close it. However, he was still a step too late. After being corroded by a wisp of black fog, he was immediately dragged into the black fog by a pair of invisible hands. "Ah! Young master, save me!" The young man's scream came from the black fog. Someone from the Shao clan who knew him immediately shouted, "Shao Ming! Don't go over, close the window." At the crucial moment, it was Xiao Yuanjing who stopped him. Then he grabbed the air and the window was immediately closed. Not long after, the screams abruptly stopped. A streak of bright red blood sprayed on the window paper like ink slowly flowing down. It was a ghastly sight. "Kacha kacha!" The sound of chewing came from outside the window, as if something was chewing on the young man's flesh. A martial venerable disappeared in the blink of an eye. Everyone's scalps went numb, and their faces were filled with fear. They held their breaths and paid close attention to the surrounding windows and doors, afraid that the black fog would spread in. Time passed just like that. Fortunately, after a while, the chewing sounds outside the window gradually disappeared. An entire ghost ship fell into a dead silence. Everyone could feel that the ghost ship was moving, but they did not know where it was moving. Someone asked weakly, "Can the doors and windows block the black fog?" Everyone fell silent. A few seconds later, Xiao Yuanjing roared and glared at Shi Qianhan. "Shi Qianhan, tell me honestly, what was that black fog just now?" Bai Xiaoyu, who was beside him, also said with killing intent, "If you don't tell me clearly, we'll join forces and kill you here today." Everyone was frightened by the black fog from before. Brother Shi were all on the same boat now. At the crucial moment, Yi Qin spoke. "Let's put aside the grudges of the past. Our goal is to survive on the ghost ship. Tell me clearly." This was because he discovered that his divine sense had actually failed here. Those seemingly decayed and ordinary doors and windows were actually able to block his divine sense. Shi Qianhan nodded slightly and said, "I don't know what the black fog was, but the last time I stepped onto the ghost ship, I saw countless powerhouses being eaten by the black fog." "The black fog can eat people?" Luo Shuiao's pretty face turned pale. "That's right. Shi Qianhan nodded. Even with his cold personality, he could not help but reveal shock on his face. However, the black fog can't penetrate the doors and windows. I suspect that there's a mysterious power around the ghost ship protecting us. We'll be fine as long as we don't go out. Everyone was shocked and glad when they heard that. They were shocked by the strangeness of the black fog, but they were glad that they had reacted in time and closed all the doors and windows. Xiao Yuanjing's eyes flickered a few times as he asked again, "Do you know where this ghost ship will end up?" "I'm not sure about that." Shi Qianhan shook his head with a smile and said slowly, 20 years ago, I didn't stay on the ghost ship for long. Later on, I was ambushed by a powerhouse from your Shao clan and was severely injured. Then they threw me out of the ghost ship. When I woke up, I found myself on a small island in the Bermuda Triangle. As soon as he finished speaking, Yuan Chitai exclaimed, "You woke up in the Bermuda Triangle? How is that possible? You have to know that the Wu River and the North Atlantic Ocean have nothing to do with each other." As if sensing everyone's disbelief, Shi Qianhan continued, "So I suspect that the ghost ship did not return along the Wu River." At this moment, even Luo Tianya was shocked. "What do you mean?" Shi Qianhan said, "In other words, there's a mysterious power on the ghost ship. This mysterious power can allow him to break through the shackles of space and travel to an unknown place." "What?" Everyone was shocked. Bruce, the Marquis of the Blood Clan, had a drastic expression on his face as he cried out in shock. Could the rumor of 30 degrees north latitude be true? Chapter 717. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's expressions changed simultaneously. Everyone present could not be more familiar with the 30th parallel north. This was a line of latitude that passed through the 4 universal civilizations. The Bermuda Triangle plane and ship had mysteriously disappeared. The Egyptian pyramids were still standing. The Mayan civilization had disappeared, and the Yangtze River had mysteriously stopped flowing twice. All of these were inseparable from the 30th parallel north. I'm not sure if the rumor of the 30th parallel north is true, but the ghost ship we're on is indeed not on the Wu River. Shi Qianhan said slowly, "Aren't you curious why the ghost ship has appeared on the Wu River all these years? Even after the ghost ship returned, there was no news of where it led to?" "Mr. Shi, you're right." Master Yijin nodded and said, "Logically speaking, the ghost ship can only travel on the sea. But we've never captured any news of it appearing on other rivers. In other words, the ghost ship mysteriously disappeared after it appeared, and it no longer exists in this world." Tang Yiming, who had been silent all this while, took a deep breath in and said word by word, "In other words, we're no longer on Earth." Everyone fell silent again. They were even panicking. If they and the ghost ship were no longer on Earth, then where were they? Where was the ghost ship going? Could it really be the legendary Netherworld? At the critical moment, the Western Giant, Thunder Emperor Thor, said seriously, "Everyone, we shouldn't think about this for now. Our priority is to survive on the ghost ship. After all, the ghost ship will eventually reach its destination." "That's right." Luo Tianya nodded slightly and said to everyone, "I suggest that everyone stop moving around and count the number of people around you. We'll be able to deal with it when the time comes." With that, he began to count the number of people on his side. Everyone followed suit. Not long after, Luo Tianya said, "Yiming and I have a total of 17 people on our side." Xiao Yuanjing looked at Bruce, Bai Xiaoyu and the rest and said, "We have 23 on our side." Yi Chen sized up Master Yijin, the old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming, Yuan Chitai, and the rest. He said, "The 7 of us." Shi Qianhan said, "Including me, we have a total of 48 people. Fortunately, we don't have many people. This room is big enough." At this moment, someone suddenly said, "There are stairs here." Everyone looked up and saw that there was a staircase to the upper left of the throne in the hall. At this moment, the staircase was covered in dust, and it gave off the marks of time. Yi Chen said slowly. I noticed earlier that the ghost ship has a total of 4 floors. I'm sure the staircase leads to the 2nd floor, and the 2nd floor also has a staircase to the 3rd floor, and so on. Lu Yunfeng, who was behind Luo Shuiyao, suddenly looked at Shi Qianhan and asked in confusion, "What's above the 2nd level?" Everyone looked at Shi Qianhan because among everyone present, only Shi Qianhan had stepped onto the ghost ship. Shi Qianhan hesitated for a moment before saying, "What else could it be? Don't tell me you still don't understand. This is a warship, so the 1st floor is decorated exactly like a military tent. The other floors are naturally the mess room, the armory, and the lounge." At this point, he added, "However, I suggest that everyone don't go up. It's better to stay on the 1st floor because no one can guarantee that the black fog from before hasn't seeped into the other 3 floors." As soon as he finished speaking, someone shrunk their necks and gave up the urge to go up the stairs to investigate. Yi Chen, on the other hand, took a good look at Shi Qianhan. Even though he tried his best to hide his emotions, Yi Chen still caught it. There's something wrong with this guy. He shook his head without batting an eyelid. Everyone sit down and rest. No one can guarantee that there won't be any danger next. After saying that, Luo Tianya led Tang Yiming, Luo Shuiyao, Tong Shuhui, and the rest to the side. Xiao Yuanjing, by Xiao Yu, and the rest were no exception. For a moment, the entire hall fell silent again. The camp was vaguely divided into 4 sides. One side was led by Luo Tianya and Tang Yiming, the other by Xiao Yuanjing, and by Xiao Yu, and the other by Yi Chen. Only Shi Qianhan represented one side. Even though they did not fight for the sake of the ghost ship, the atmosphere was still cold, and they were all guarding against each other. At that moment, Luo Shuiyao walked to Yi Chen's side and said softly, "Be careful. Xiao Yuanjing and the rest might attack you under such circumstances. And Shi Qianhan, I have a feeling that there's something wrong with him." Yi Chen nodded calmly. At that moment, the entire hall darkened. All the lanterns were extinguished, and the hall suddenly fell into darkness. What happened? Why did the lanterns go out? This sudden scene caused everyone to be shocked. Some people subconsciously stood up and wanted to turn on the flashlight they carried with them to illuminate the area. However, at that moment, an extremely shrill scream rang out in the hall. The scream dragged on for a long time, causing one's scalp to go numb. Which scoundrel dares to attack? In an instant, countless furious voices rang out. At the next moment, 2 flashlights lit up the originally dark room, and what they saw was a corpse on the ground. It was a young man. His eyes were wide open, and the most terrifying thing was that he was only left with a layer of skin. All the blood and flesh in his body seemed to have been sucked out. B****. Bai Xiaoyu suddenly looked at Yi Chen when he saw that. His eyes were extremely grim. "Yi, how dare you kill someone from my Bai family? Kill him!" The people from the Bai family behind him glared at Yi Chen. At that moment, the atmosphere became tense. Even Luo Shuiyao was stunned. She looked at Yi Chen suddenly and could not help but ask, "Yi Chen, did you really kill this person?" Bai Xiaoyu smirked coldly. "Do you even need to ask? Yi has never been on good terms with us. Peng Fei must have killed him." Yi Chen's eyes focused. "Would you believe me if I said I didn't kill him?" Who else could it be? Bruce, the vampire marquis behind Bai Xiaoyu, smirked arrogantly. "Among the people here, only you have a grudge against young Master Bai. You must have killed someone from the Bai family while the lights were out." Xiao Yuanjing said in a deep voice, "Mad Southernie, are you declaring war on us?" "If I dare to do it, I dare to admit it. Even if I wanted to kill you guys, I wouldn't do something as despicable as a sneak attack." Yi Chen smirked coldly. The almighty killer sword slowly landed in his hand with a domineering sword intent. "Since you guys don't believe me, let's fight!" Wait, both sides were about to fight. Tong Shuhui, who had been silent all this while, suddenly stopped them. Bai Xiaoyu said in a deep voice, "Tong Shuhui, are you going against us?" No. Tong Shuhui's face was terrifyingly pale. Her lips trembled as she said, I counted just now and realized that all of us added up are still 48 people. Chapter 718. What? It's still 48 people. In other words, there's an extra person. At that moment, everyone felt their scalps go numb. They felt that the temperature in the extremely cold room had dropped by dozens of degrees, and everyone's back started to turn cold. At the beginning, everyone had counted the total number of people. There were 48. After, by Peng Fei's death, logically speaking, the total number of people should be 47. But why were there still 48? Impossible. Bai Xiaoyu subconsciously objected, but he still kept sizing up the people behind him. It was obvious that he was feeling goosebumps. For a moment, a few flashlights kept shining on everyone's faces. Everyone was counting their numbers. After a while, Bai Xiaoyu's trembling voice was heard. We still have 23 people on our side. They had lost by Peng Fei, so logically speaking, there should be 22 of them. The total number was still the same. What? Who's the extra person? Everyone was shocked. They subconsciously gathered together to look at Xiao Yuanjing and the rest, only to realize that there was a figure standing beside the last dragon-patterned golden pillar. Bai Xiaoyu gulped and asked, Who are you? The person did not move or say a word. Bai Xiaoyu shouted again, Are you a human or a ghost? You're just trying to act mysterious. Xiao Yuanjing snorted coldly. He took a step forward and extended his hand toward the figure. Logically speaking, as the second on the martial venerable leaderboard, only Luo Tinya could suppress him. However, just as his hand was about to touch the figure was even faster than him. It turned into an afterimage and dodged. Then it rushed to the second floor of the ghost ship from the stairs that everyone had discovered earlier. Bai Xiaoyu exclaimed, That thing ran up. The series of actions was extremely fast, and it was completed in the blink of an eye. By the time everyone reacted and wanted to stop it, it was already too late. Xiao Yuanjing's expression was terrible. He had personally attacked, but he could not stop the other party. At that moment, everyone's attention was no longer on by Peng Fei's death. Instead, they were frowning and thinking about what the black shadow was. Yuan Chitai stammered, Was that thing a human or a ghost? It doesn't look like a ghost. Master Yizhen shook his head slowly. I'm a Buddhist. I've always been extremely sensitive to evil things. However, I didn't sense any evil energy from that figure just now. Not bad. Even the old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming nodded and said, It's very simple for ghosts to kill people. There's no need to eat blood and flesh. Everyone looked down at the human skin on the ground. It was unknown if someone was overly nervous, but the breath they exhaled hit the human skin, causing it to swell up. You're already dead, yet you still want to cause trouble. Zhang Wuming raised his hand and threw out a talisman. The talisman ignited without any fire and immediately burned the human skin, filling the room with a foul smell. Luo Tinya said thoughtfully, Could it be related to the black fog outside the window? Yi Chen said nothing. He only took a deep look at the stairs leading to the second floor of the ghost ship as if he was thinking about something. I've had enough. At that moment, Yi Chen extended his hand. The old man with the sword took a step forward and said coldly, Looks like staying in the room isn't reliable at all. We all have our own goals on the ghost ship. What else can we do by staying here other than waiting for death? With that, he held his sword in one hand and stepped onto the stairs leading to the second floor. I don't believe this. I don't care what kind of demons they are. I'll destroy them with my sword. Zhang Wuming wanted to stop him. Fellow Li, don't. However, the old man with the sword did not even look back. Soon, he disappeared from the first floor of the ghost ship, and everyone heard footsteps coming from the wooden boards above their heads. Let's follow him. I'd like to see what dares to play tricks in front of us. Xiao Yuanjing said, and followed the old man up the stairs to the second floor. Bai Xiaoyu hesitated for a moment before leading his men to follow closely behind. Since they're not afraid, what are we afraid of? Luo Tianya did not want to be outdone. He led his men and followed. The old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming, could not help but look at Yi Chen when he saw that. Mr. Yi, do you think we should go up? Let's go. Yi Chen smiled lightly and took a step forward. The second floor of the ghost ship. When everyone came up one after another, they realized that there were many tables, chairs, and benches on the second floor. The doors and windows were tightly shut. Just as Shi Qianhan had said, this floor was the dining room. After everyone sized up the second floor of the ghost ship, they realized that it was empty. Someone could not help but ask, "Where's the person who came up earlier?" With his reminder, everyone came to their senses. That was right. The old man with the sword had clearly come up. But where was he? Zhang Wuming frowned and said, "Could he have gone to the third floor?" Someone exclaimed, "There are no stairs on the second floor." Everyone was shocked. They immediately checked their surroundings again and found no stairs to the third floor. The entire second floor seemed to be sealed. Yi Chen frowned and tried his best to spread his divine consciousness. He realized that it was really like a lair. The surrounding doors and windows completely blocked his divine consciousness. Wait, where's Shi Qianhan? Why didn't he follow us? Luo Shuiyao, who was in the crowd, suddenly spoke. Everyone looked and realized that Shi Qianhan was really not in the crowd. Master Yijin shook his head and said, "Looks like he stayed down there? This person is also afraid of death." Bai Xiaoyu scoffed. "Looks like I overestimated him." Yi Chen thought to himself and turned around to return to the first floor of the ghost ship. However, at that moment, he stopped in his tracks and suddenly looked at a wall before him. There was a lantern hanging there. Unlike the other lanterns, this lantern was white. The cover was not made of paper but skin. As the light flickered, it looked like a human head smiling evilly. Moreover, there was a faint, pungent smell of blood. Is there something wrong with this lantern? A young man from the Shao clan's camp walked over subconsciously. He reached out and took the lantern down, holding it in his hand to size it up. At the next moment, the entire second floor shook violently. A coffin slowly appeared in front of everyone. It was an ancient coffin, but there was no lid. The strangest thing was that there was a faint light in the coffin. This sudden scene caused everyone to subconsciously take a step back. Their faces were filled with fear as they stared at the ancient coffin. Tang Yiming's expression turned ugly. This ancient coffin appeared out of thin air, and it even blocked the stairs back to the first floor. "Xiao Shun, go take a look." Xiao Yuanjing glanced at the young man from the Shao clan who had taken down the lantern earlier. The young man was obviously afraid. "Young master!" Xiao Yuanjing's gaze turned cold. "Go!" Xiao Shun hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he did not dare disobey the order. He carried the lantern and walked toward the ancient coffin while trembling. What no one knew was that on the fourth floor of the ghost ship, an ice coffin stood quietly on the ground. Inside the coffin lay a peerless woman. Shi Qianhan was currently standing in the ice coffin. He slapped the coffin lid away and bent down to gently caress the woman's face. His eyes were filled with tenderness. Qianhan is here. P.S. There's still one more chapter. I'll write it after dinner. Chapter 719. The woman in the coffin was dressed in a red wedding dress. Her hands were placed in front of her chest, and she was extremely beautiful. Even though she had died long ago, her skin was still as rosy as a living person's. The red wedding dress, which was just right for her, accentuated her exquisite figure. Accompanied by the confusion of the cold air in the ice coffin, it added a sense of elegance. If one took a closer look, they would discover that there was a fist-sized hole in the woman's heart. The blood inside had already coagulated. It's been 20 years. It's been a whole 20 years. I've missed you every single day and night. At this moment, Shi Qianhan was no longer as cold as before. His expression was extremely gentle as he bowed and gently caressed the face of the woman in the coffin. A drop of tear slowly fell from the corner of his eye. Patter! Tears fell on the forehead of the woman in the coffin. Sir Qianhan hurriedly reached out to wipe it away, looking a little flustered. I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. He slowly carried the woman out of the ice coffin and gently hugged her. His expression seemed to be in pain. I know that you had a motive for hiding by my side back then, but do you know why I didn't reject you? Because I was moved the moment I saw you. I've always been born for the sword, and I only wanted to bring glory to the 10,000 Swords Pavilion. I didn't live up to Master's expectations. He kissed the woman's forehead and seemed to be talking to himself. I knew what it meant to like you the moment I saw you. Therefore, even though I knew that your motive was impure, I still didn't reject you. Later on, you snuck into the secret chamber of the 10,000 Swords Pavilion and stole our sex cultivation technique. After Master found out, he chased after you with his sword. I didn't want you to die under Master's sword, so I fought with Master. Sir Qianhan's face was filled with bitterness. Master was extremely disappointed in me. He saw me as a traitor and wanted to kill me. At the crucial moment, you returned to block Master's fatal sword for me. Why were you so stupid? At this point, a trace of extreme sorrow was emitted from his body. If you weren't in my world, what's the point of living in this world? If you die, it means that Qianhan's heart will also die. He stretched out his hand and gently smoothed out the wrinkled clothes of the woman in his arms. For you, I'm willing to give up my identity as the young pavilion master of the 10,000 Swords Pavilion. For you, I didn't hesitate to betray my sect and fall into the demonic Tao. I didn't hesitate to become the demonic Tao Sir Qianhan that everyone hates on the second floor of the ghost ship. Under everyone's nervous gazes, Xiao Shun of the Xiao family carried the lantern and finally approached the coffin blocking the staircase. He gritted his teeth and looked down. As if he had discovered something, he actually entered the coffin and disappeared. There was no movement inside. Everyone's hearts were in their throats again. Bai Xiaoyu asked worriedly, "Did something happen to Xiao Shun?" "Wait a little longer." Xiao Yuanjing frowned slightly and said, "If something happened, it's impossible for us not to notice it. Moreover, Xiao Shun did not make any sound for help." Not long after, a head slowly poked out from the coffin. It was Xiao Shun from before. However, no one heaved a sigh of relief at all. Instead, they looked at Xiao Shun, who walked out of the coffin in fear. Bai Xiaoyu's face twitched violently. "Yuan Jing, how did this happen?" His voice trembled as he spoke. Xiao Yuanjing's expression was terrifyingly gloomy. "Brother." Luo Shuiyao instinctively leaned behind Luo Tinya. Even Yi Qin could not help but narrow his eyes. He saw that Xiao Shun, who had walked out, had a drastic change in appearance. The lantern in his hand had turned into a bloody head. The head belonged to the sword-wielding old man who had first gone up to the second floor. The old man's eyes were wide open, and a strange smile appeared at the corner of his lips. Xiao Shun's head had also changed. It had turned into a lantern. That's right, it was a lantern. It was as if Xiao Shun's head had been swapped with the lantern from before. Xiao Shun did not realize all of this at all. He walked over with a smile. "Young master, I've gone to take a look. This coffin turns out to be a passage." His voice was clearly Xiao Shun's, but when he spoke it was the mouth on the old man's head that was moving. Xiao Yuanjing shouted, "Don't come over!" "Young master, what's wrong?" Xiao Shun obediently stopped in his tracks and said in confusion, "And why are all of you looking at me like that?" "Kill him." Bai Xiaoyu's eyes twitched, and a palm print condensed, shattering Xiao Shun along with the head in his hand. An even stranger scene appeared once more. After the sword-wielding old man's head was shattered, his broken facial features actually reassembled. He widened his eyes and looked at everyone with a smile. "All of you will die. I guarantee that all of you will die. There are no exceptions. Bang! Bai Xiaoyu smashed him with another punch, completely smashing him into pieces. Only then did he not reassemble himself. Another person had died. No, to be precise, it was 2 people. Everyone's expressions gradually darkened, and a trace of uneasiness lingered in their hearts like an inner demon. What exactly happened to the sword-wielding old man and Xiao Shan? Someone trembled. What should we do now? Right at this moment, another person appeared from the coffin from before. The appearance of this person caused everyone's scalps to go numb. It was because the other party was the sword-wielding old man. The sword-wielding old man did not know what had just happened. He walked over with a smile. You guys finally caught up. I've been waiting for you guys for a long time. Don't move. Xiao Yuanjing, Luo Tianya, and the rest shouted in unison. The sword-wielding old man was confused. What's wrong? Zhang Wuming of Mount Longhu said, Brother Li, aren't you dead? You're the one who's dead. The sword-wielding old man's expression turned furious as he berated. Old Zhang, don't curse me like that. I'm clearly alive and well. Zhang Wuming felt that his mind was in a mess, but he still asked with a doubtful expression. Then why did you suddenly disappear just now? Also, why did you come out of the coffin? Just because of that? The sword-wielding old man's heart sank when he saw that everyone's gazes were somewhat unfriendly. He seemed to have realized something and immediately said, I ran into a mechanism as soon as I came up, and then I fell into a secret room. At this point, a hint of fear flashed across his eyes. I saw many coffins in the secret room. They were all people who died on this ship, and there were even Xiao Bai's writings. What? Xiao Bai? Everyone was shocked. Zhang Wuming hurriedly asked, Brother Li, quick, tell me, what did Xiao Bai's writings say? P.S. Chapter 4. Today's update has been completed. We'll continue tomorrow. It's a new week. Please give me monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 720. Xiao Bai. He was a legend in Hong Kong's feng shui world, and it could even be said that he was a legend in China's feng shui world. The 2 major feng shui sects of Hong Kong, the southern sect and the northern sect, originated from his inheritance. However, this person's whereabouts had always been mysterious, so the world did not know much about him. The only thing they knew was that this person's attainments in feng shui were extremely high. It was said that he could defy the heavens and change fate. Therefore, when everyone heard the name Xiao Bai, they were all shocked. They did not expect Xiao Bai to have really been to the ghost ship. Furthermore, he left a message on the ghost ship. The old man's lips moved slightly when he heard Zhang Wuming's words. He looked like he wanted to say something, but he hesitated, as if he was afraid of something. Seeing the strange expression on his face, the old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming, stomped his feet anxiously. Brother Li, what did Xiao Bai leave behind? Tell me. You'll know when you come down with me. The sword-wielding old man sized up everyone with a profound gaze. He sighed softly and returned to the ancient coffin. Everyone was completely stunned by him. Coupled with the strange scene of Xiao Shan walking out with his head in his hand, no one dared to take a step forward. Bai Xiaoyu snorted coldly. This old thing is a little strange. It's best not to fall for it. Zhang Wuming seemed to be in a dilemma. After gritting his teeth, he finally entered the coffin. He was here to look for his senior brother, so how could he bear to give up on the message left behind by Xiao Bai? Forget it. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, we can't avoid it. Master Yijin pressed his palms together. His eyes were clear. After saying that, he entered the ancient coffin. Let's go too. Seeing that the 2 people on his side had left, Yichin lifted his head to look at Yuan Chitai and the rest next to him. Eventually, he entered the ancient coffin. Just as Xiao Shan had said earlier, the bottom of the coffin was a tunnel that led to another secret room. As soon as Yichin entered the coffin, he felt a terrifying suction force. He felt like he was falling from the sky. Fortunately, this feeling did not last long. When he landed on the ground, he found himself in a narrow and sealed space. The surroundings were decorated with night pearls, illuminating the secret room. There were 3 figures standing in the distance. They were Zhang Wuming and the other 2. At the same time, more than 10 figures descended one after another. When everyone walked over, they saw Zhang Wuming and the other 2 surrounding a stone sculpture and secretly sizing it up. The stone sculpture seemed to be a person wearing a Taoist robe and holding a horsetail whisk. He leaned against the wall in an extremely strange posture, with one hand pointing to the sky and his eyes staring into the distance at a 45-degree angle. "What is this?" Xiao Yuanjing, who had caught up, said in a deep voice. "Why does it look like a person?" Luo Tianya frowned and said, "Could he be Xiao Bai?" "Not bad." The sword-wielding elder and Zhang Wuming nodded in unison. In the end, Zhang Wuming said slowly, "The statue in front of us is Xiao Bai. I was lucky enough to meet him a few decades ago. There's no mistake. Why is there a statue of Xiao Bai here? Where is he, dead or alive?" Many people began to ask in their hearts. Yi Qin said, "Where's Xiao Bai's brush?" "Everyone look over there." The sword-wielding elder pointed at the wall behind everyone. It was a mural with many patterns carved on it. Someone walked over to take a look and realized that the pattern on the mural was actually a ship. However, it was a little worn out, and it was very obscure and difficult to understand. There seemed to be a person inside. Why is it a pattern and not words? It's a blurry pattern. Who can understand it? Li, are you sure you're not playing a trick on us? For a moment, everyone's expressions turned ugly. They looked at the sword-wielding elder sternly, and they seemed like they were about to attack. At the critical moment, Luo Shuiyao frowned and said, "Mr. Li, how can you be sure that this is Xiao Bai's brush?" "It's very simple." The sword-wielding elder smiled bitterly and pointed at Xiao Bai's stone sculpture. "Look, where's Xiao Bai looking at?" Everyone could not help but look again, and realized that Xiao Bai was staring at the mural in front of them without moving at all. Xiao Yuanjing frowned. "Are you saying that Xiao Bai is hinting to us that there's something on the pattern?" "That's right." The sword-wielding elder nodded and said, "I suspect that Xiao Bai left a statue to hint at something, and the content of the hint is on the mural in front of us." At this point, he sighed softly. "Unfortunately, the pattern on the mural is a little blurry. I can't see anything no matter how hard I try. Shine the flashlight on it." After Master Yijin said this, someone immediately shone a flashlight on the mural, and he himself stared at the mural. There's something strange about this lousy painting. What if it's a coincidence? Besides, Xiao Bai's hand is still pointing at it. Could it be that there's something on it? Luo Shuiyao secretly pursed her lips and began to walk back and forth in the secret room. No one knew what she had stepped on. "Kacha!" A crisp sound rang out in the secret room. Everyone was shocked by the sudden sound, and they could not help but turn to look at Luo Shuiyao. What happened? "I don't know either." Luo Shuiyao looked a little flustered and confused. Crack, crack, the crisp sound continued. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Xiao Bai's statue actually floated in the air. There was a secret compartment under the statue. "There's something," Zhang Wuming exclaimed and immediately walked over. After putting on a pair of gloves, he reached his hand into the secret compartment. During this period, everyone subconsciously held their breaths and stared at him without blinking, afraid that something unexpected would happen. Not long after, Zhang Wuming took out a jar. The jar was only the size of a vinegar jar, and the mouth of the jar could be held with one hand. Something like a black cloth slowly fell out of it. Zhang Wuming slowly opened it and exclaimed after taking a look, "It's a painting! It's a painting!" Only then did everyone heave a sigh of relief. They walked over to him and began to examine the painting. It was a nautical chart. The nautical chart was divided into 3 parts, and it was filled with all kinds of people. Most of them were dressed in ancient clothes. The first one was dozens of people surrounding a couple and worshipping them. The second one was a group of people suddenly rushing over from the sea. These people seemed to be pirates, and they had a huge battle with the people on the ship. As for the third painting, the appearance of the ship had changed greatly. Not only was it emitting black gas, but there were also many ferocious-looking evil spirits floating on the ship. These evil spirits turned into black gas and surrounded the entire ship. Many people were trapped inside the ancient ship. Chapter 7:21. At this moment, someone said weakly, "Did you guys notice that this painting is exactly the same as the mural on the wall?" Everyone immediately reacted and compared the two. They realized that other than the damaged parts, the rest were exactly the same. "Looks like Xiao Bai really gave us a lot of guidance," Tang Yiming said slowly. "But why did he leave behind two identical guidance? And what's the meaning of the contents of this mural?" Tang Yiming's words completely stunned everyone. That's right. What was Xiao Bai trying to tell everyone by leaving this painting? Luo Shuiyao said in annoyance. "If you ask me, this Xiao Bai is just deliberately mystifying us. If he really has some guidance, why didn't he just write it? Why did he have to make a pattern for everyone to guess? How could you and I possibly understand the thoughts of such an expert?" The old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming, shook his head slightly. He then spread the painting on the ground and said with a frown, "Looks like we can only rely on this painting to understand the ghost ship." Master Yijin said, "That's right. Fortunately, the pattern on this sheepskin scroll is clear enough. Everyone, take a closer look and see if you can see anything. Did you guys notice that there are 3 pictures on this sheepskin scroll?" Yi Qin said in a deep voice, "The first one is a voyage. There are many soldiers on it, but these people don't look like soldiers at all." "That's right." Zhang Wuming nodded and said, "Judging from the looks of these people, they seem to be Chinese. However, even I can't tell which dynasty they are dressed in." At this point, he pointed at the middle-aged couple who were being worshipped by many soldiers in the first painting. He frowned and said, "Especially this middle-aged couple. They're like ancient emperors, surrounded by these people. Could this middle-aged couple be the emperor and concubine of a certain dynasty?" Luo Shuiyao's interest was piqued, and she started to size them up carefully. "It doesn't look like it." Yuan Chitai shook his head and said, "My Banshan lineage has a better understanding of ancient history, but I've never seen such a worship and attire. Moreover, the middle-aged couple and the woman don't have the aura of an emperor. Instead, they look like ancient generals leading their troops. Let's not dwell on this for now. Let's look at the second painting." Yi Qin interrupted everyone's doubts and fixed his eyes on the second picture. This picture is much easier to understand than the first one. Clearly, when the ship was sailing somewhere, many people suddenly charged at it from the sea. There was a fierce battle between both parties. His voice suddenly paused. That was because he realized that the people on the surface of the sea were all walking on the waves, and they were all Chinese martial artists. When the middle-aged couple was besieged by these people, they protected a little girl who was about 4 or 5 years old. The little girl was dressed in luxurious clothes and looked as delicate and adorable as a porcelain doll. How could it be her? At that moment, Yi Chen's heart was stirred, because he found that the little girl in the painting was somewhat similar to Qian, especially her eyes. They were exactly the same. Sensing his abnormal expression, Zhang Wuming could not help but ask, "Mr. Yi, what's wrong?" "Yi Chen, are you all right?" Luo Shuiyao asked with concern. "I'm fine." Yi Chen shook his head calmly, but waves of shock and all sorts of guesses were stirred in his heart. Why did the little girl in the painting look so similar to Qian? And what was the relationship between the middle-aged couple and Qian? Just as Mr. Yi said, Zhang Wuming continued, "The content of the second painting should be that the ship was attacked by someone. Everyone on the ship was killed or injured, and the little girl behind the middle-aged couple must be their daughter. Brother! At that moment, Luo Shueyao suddenly whispered to Luo Tianya beside her. I realize that the little girl in the painting looks a little like the one we're looking for. Don't spout nonsense! Luo Tianya had actually guessed it long ago. Now that he heard that his sister had the same feeling, he could not help but be shocked and hurriedly stopped her. At the same time, Tang Yiming, Lu Yinfeng, Xiang Nan, Tang Shuhui, and even Xiao Yuanjing and Bai Xiaoyu had strange expressions on their faces. But no one said anything. Even though Luo Shueyao's voice was neither loud nor soft, Yi Qin still heard it. He was even more certain of his guess. According to what he knew, when the ghost ship appeared 20 years ago, apart from Shi Qianhan, the rest of the people on the ship were either dead or injured. However, an old man and a young man came out alive from the ghost ship. The appearance of the old man and the young man shocked the entire Shangsantian because no one could find out their identities. At that time, many powerhouses attacked them, but most of them were killed by the lunatic. The old man and the young man were Chan and the grandpa's son she mentioned. The two of them had appeared on the ghost ship, and they were connected to the little girl in the painting. Yi Chen suspected that Chan was the little girl in the painting. In that case, the middle-aged couple must be her biological parents. However, what puzzled him was who was Grandpa's son. Why did he abandon Chan? And why did Chan lose her memory and end up on the streets? At that moment, Yuan Chitai sucked in a breath of cold air and suddenly said, Mister Yi, the people who fought on the ship are all experts. Every one of them is walking on the river. They're at least martial Dao masters. Master Yijin's expression changed as well. That's not all. Did you guys notice that the location of the battle looks like the Wu River? As soon as the two of them finished speaking, the faces of Bai Xiaoyu, Xiao Yuanjing, and the rest twitched slightly. It was very unnatural, and killing intent flashed through their eyes as they looked at Yuan Chitai and Master Yijin. Yi Qin changed the topic after taking a good look at the few of them. Let's look at the third painting. Needless to say, he could guess that the group of powerhouses who charged onto the ship like bandits in the second painting were definitely from Shangsantian, and they were related to the Xiao and Bai clans. There were dozens of them who were not weaker than martial Dao masters. Only Shangsantian could produce such power. Zhang Wuming and Master Yijin secretly looked at each other and shook their heads slightly. Clearly, they had guessed something. In order to ease the atmosphere, Zhang Wuming pretended to be ignorant and asked, Mr. Yi, the first two paintings are acceptable, but why did the ship in the third painting become eerie? Yi Chen smiled lightly and said meaningfully, Obviously, the ship in the third painting is the ghost ship we're on. What? Everyone was shocked when they heard that. Yuan Chitai exclaimed, Mr. Yi, are you saying that the ship in the first and second paintings changed drastically and became the ghost ship we're currently on? Chapter 722. That's right. Yi Qin nodded lightly and said as he met everyone's gaze. After the tragic battle in the second painting, the battleship was destroyed and it was filled with corpses. Blood flowed everywhere. It must have experienced something else to turn it into a ghost ship. Look, Master Yijin pointed at the black energy circling around the ship in the third painting and said, Is this black energy the same as the one we encountered before? There were countless ferocious-looking evil spirits in the black energy he was pointing at. Yes, it's exactly the same. This time, even the sanguine Marquis Bruce and the other Western powerhouses were stunned. Thunder Emperor Thor took a deep breath and said, Therefore, the situation is very clear now. This map should describe the origin of the ghost ship. After his reminder, everyone nodded. Luo Shueyao said with lingering fear, Looks like there are indeed evil spirits in the black fog we experienced earlier. No wonder the black fog can eat people. Xiao Yuanjing nodded slightly and said, The content of the third painting should be that the ghost ship is surrounded by black fog. Many living people are trapped in the ghost ship, and they are all trapped in the secret room. At this point, his face trembled, and he could not help but gulp. Ah! Why is there a statue in the third painting? Someone looked at everyone's position and then at the position of the person in the painting. When he realized that it was the same, he cried out in shock, "I think it's talking about us." This time no one spoke. They felt that the temperature in the secret room seemed to have suddenly dropped by dozens of degrees, and a chill gradually surged into their hearts. Even though everyone present was invincible, they couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines at this moment. Could it be that Xiao Bai had really comprehended the heavenly secrets 20 years ago and foreseen their arrival 20 years later? That's not right. Bai Xiaoyu suddenly exclaimed, "There's something wrong with the number of people in the ghost ship. Count them. They seem to be about the same as our current number." Everyone hurriedly looked at the third painting and secretly counted the people inside. Luo Shueyao even started counting one by one. 1, 2, 46, 47, 48. Buzz! The entire chamber instantly fell into a deathly silence. Everyone felt their scalps go numb, and someone muttered, "How could it be 48? Everyone's faces instantly turned ashen. In the beginning, there were 48 of them. Bai Pengfei and Xiao Shun were dead, and Shi Qianhan was not present. Logically speaking, there should be 45 of them left. How could there be 3 more? Even if the black shadow that escaped first was included, that was only 46. And there were 2 more. After a while, someone said weakly, "Could it be that we're overthinking things? Could it be another group of people on this map and not us? Impossible." Xiao Yuanjing shook his head with certainty and said, "Take a closer look at the position of the person in the painting. It's exactly the same as ours, and there are only 2 women." As his voice fell, everyone looked at Luo Shueyao and Tong Shuhui. Yes, among the 40-odd people present, there were only 2 women. This could no longer be described as a coincidence. Luo Shueyao's voice gradually started to tremble. Could it be that the old woman who died earlier and the guy who was dragged out of the window are also included? She regretted saying that. That was because the old woman died before the ghost ship returned. At that time, there was no black fog on the ghost ship, and when the guy who was dragged out of the window died, everyone was still on the first floor of the ghost ship. The 48 people in the third painting were all in the secret room. At this moment, Xiao Yuanjing said again, "I've made another discovery. Look." Everyone hurriedly looked over and saw Xiao Yuanjing pointing at the 2 people in the third painting. He enunciated word by word. "Did you guys notice that these 2 people are a little different?" Although the 2 people he was pointing at were wearing clothes, their faces were shrouded in a faint black fog. The facial features in the black fog were vaguely ferocious and twisted, and a pair of eyes were faintly discernible, like ghost fire. Xiao Yuanjing took a deep breath in and reminded them again, "Don't you guys think that these 2 people are a little similar to the evil spirits in the black fog outside the ghost ship in the painting?" That's right. Bai Xiaoyu also realized the problem at this moment. He then raised his eyes and stared at everyone warily. "Among all of us here, there are 2 ghosts, evil spirits." What? When everyone heard that, their bodies froze subconsciously. They sized each other up, their eyes filled with vigilance and wariness. Which 2 are ghosts? That's impossible, right? Could it be that after the ghost ship returned, we didn't close the doors and windows in time, so a ghost came in through the black fog? At that moment, everyone started discussing in panic. However, Xiao Yuanjing lifted his head slowly and looked at Yi Chen and the old man with the sword. He said coldly, "The 2 of them are ghosts." Luo Shueyao immediately said coldly, "Xiao Yuanjing, stop slandering us." That's right. Yuan Qitai, Zhang Wuming, and the rest also said, "Young Master Xiao, even if you had a grudge with Mr. Yu before, you shouldn't slander him for nothing." The old man's expression gradually turned cold. "Young Master Xiao, I don't think I've offended you, right?" "I'm slandering you?" Xiao Yuanjing smirked coldly and threw the sheepskin map on the ground. He said, "Take a closer look. Aren't these two ghosts standing in the same position as Yi Qin and the rest?" Everyone fell silent when they saw it. One of the ghosts in the painting happened to be standing next to the wall on the east side, while the other ghost was standing in front of Xiao Bai's statue. Unfortunately, the person leaning against the wall was Yi Qin, and the person facing Xiao Bai's stone statue was the old man with the sword. At the next moment, everyone took a few steps back and isolated Yi Qin and the old man with the sword. Even Zhang Wuming, the Luo family, and the Tang family were no exception. How is this possible? The old man with the sword was instantly dumbfounded. He said incoherently, "How could I be a ghost? It's impossible. How could Yi Qin be a ghost?" Luo Shuiyao still could not accept it. She tried to argue for Yi Qin. "We boarded the ship with Yi Qin. He's clearly a human. How could he be a ghost? The truth is right before our eyes. Xiao Bai's prophecy wasn't wrong at all. Don't tell me that Xiao Bai deliberately harmed Yi 20 years ago." Xiao Yuanjing smirked as if he was mocking them. In the end, his gaze landed on Yi Qin. "So, you two ghosts have been hiding around us. If Xiao Bai hadn't pointed us out, we would still have been kept in the dark by you guys." Chapter 7:23. In the secret chamber on the second floor of the ghost ship. After Xiao Bai left behind a painting, the peaceful situation was completely destroyed. After all, Xiao Bai's prophecy was too shocking. Apart from Shi Qianhan, there were actually two ghosts among them. Initially, they did not believe in these things. Even if there were really ghosts, they would not be afraid. However, ever since they stepped onto the ghost ship, several people had died one after another. It was not an exaggeration to describe what had happened as strange. Therefore, at this moment, everyone gradually felt a chill in their hearts. At that moment, many people looked at Yi Qin with hostility. Even Luo Tianya, Tang Yiming, and the rest still had doubts on their faces. Facing everyone's gaze, Yi Qin was not afraid at all. Instead, he looked straight at Xiao Yuanjing and said while grinning coldly, "Have you finally revealed your true intentions? You guys have really put in a lot of effort to deal with me." "Deal with you?" Xiao Yuanjing's eyes narrowed as he snorted coldly. "Yi, don't think too highly of yourself. If we wanted to deal with you, we would have attacked you when we boarded the ship. Why would we wait until now?" Yi Qin's expression did not change. "Then what right do you have to say that I'm a ghost, based on the so-called painting of Xiao Bai that you guys found?" Bai Xiaoyu smirked coldly. "Then how do you explain that you're standing in the same position as the ghost in the painting? You have to know that the ghost in the painting is exactly the same as the evil ghost in the black fog outside the ghost ship." "That's right." The vampire Marquis Bruce also chimed in. "Xiao Bai foresaw our arrival 20 years ago. The number of people in the painting and their positions are exactly the same as ours. That shouldn't be wrong, right?" Everyone nodded when they heard that. Even though they didn't want to believe it, they had no choice but to admit that the third diagram Xiao Bai had left behind was describing them. It was a scene of black mist enveloping the ghost ship, and they were trapped within the ghost ship. They were also in a secret chamber. "And you?" Xiao Yuanjing suddenly looked at the sword-wielding old man. "Among all of us, you were the first to step onto the second floor of the ghost ship. When we caught up, we couldn't see you anymore. Then, the ancient coffin that led to the secret chamber appeared. Xiao, Shun of the Xiao family, went in to investigate and died." At this point, his gaze turned cold. "We all clearly saw that when Xiao Shun came out, he was holding your head in his hand. As soon as Xiao Shun died, you appeared. Tell us, if you're not a ghost, then what are you?" As soon as he said that, many people nodded to themselves. There was nothing wrong with Xiao Yuanjing's analysis. In fact, when the old man walked out of the coffin, everyone wondered if he was a human or a ghost. Even the old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming, was a little shaken. He could not help but look at the sword-wielding elder and say, "Brotherly, this matter concerns your identity. Can you explain it to us?" I The old man paused for a moment before a bitter smile appeared on his face. When I came up here, I felt a chill on my neck, and then I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I discovered that I was in this secret chamber. Because I discovered Xiao Bai's statue, I forgot about everything that happened before and went back to inform all of you. He paused for a moment and said with an unnatural expression, I suspect that I was ambushed by something. Even when he said this, he did not have much confidence, because this experience was really difficult to convince others. Yi Qin frowned and stared at him. Are you saying that someone attacked you from behind and knocked you out when you came up? Then you were thrown into the secret room? He could feel that the other party was not lying. Before the old man could speak, Xiao Yuanjing sneered, What a joke! You're a beginner stage martial, venerable, who could sneak an attack on you without anyone noticing. Besides, all of us were on the first floor at that time. Let me ask you, who would be able to launch a sneak attack on you? That's Yuanjing's analysis. Bai Xiaoyu laughed dryly and said, Furthermore, the other party ambushed you, but they didn't kill you. Instead, they threw you into the secret room. What's the meaning of this? Could it be that they have nothing better to do? Zhang Wuming's expression became more and more solemn. Brotherly, you should tell the truth. I'm telling the truth. The reason why I didn't tell you guys at the beginning was because I knew that even if I told you guys, you wouldn't believe me. The old man shook his head and smiled bitterly. His expression was terrible. Moreover, I suspect that the person who ambushed me was the one who killed Bai Pengfei in the dark and escaped to the second floor. This means that there's something wrong with you. Xiao Yuanjing's face was cold. The other party even killed Bai Pengfei, but in the end he only ambushed you and did not kill you. He even threw you into the secret room. How do you explain that? The old man was speechless. This time the way everyone looked at the old man changed again. The other party's words were not worth pondering. There's no need to waste your breath on him. Bai Xiaoyu interrupted him and said with a cold smile, The situation is very clear now. When we just boarded the ghost ship, the black fog attacked. There must be evil spirits in the black fog sneaking in before we could close the doors and windows. He looked straight at Yi Chen and the old man with the sword. I'm sure that there are 3 evil spirits that sneaked in. The first one is the one who killed Bai Pengfei in the dark, and the 2 of you must be the remaining 2 evil spirits. Xiao Yuanjing took a step forward and locked his killing intent onto Yi Qin and the old man with the sword. Everyone, let's do it. Even if they're evil spirits, we have the numbers advantage. We can kill them. At the next moment, apart from the Luo family and the Tang family, everyone present exuded cold killing intent at Yi Qin and the old man with the sword. We won't care about this anymore. Zhang Wuming, Master Yijin, and the rest looked at each other and stood aside at the same time. Clearly, they suspected that Yi Chen was a ghost, but they could not attack him. Luo Shuiyao's pretty face changed. She was about to step forward when Luo Tianya stopped her. She could not help but say with a trembling voice, Brother, Luo, Tianya said in a deep voice, this isn't something we can interfere with. Xian Heng, who was beside him, said with a cold smile, Yao Xiao Bai's prophecy is very clear. Yi is a ghost. Instead of letting it kill us, we might as well make the first move. Forget it, Yi Chen said slowly. His tone seemed calm, but it revealed an extreme coldness. Since I can't reason with you guys, I can only use my fists. Since you say that I'm a ghost, I'll turn all of you into ghosts today. Kill him. Bai Xiaoyu shouted and charged at Yi Chen first. Right at that instant, the entire ghost ship trembled violently. It was as if a meteor had crashed down from outer space, and everyone was practically unable to stand steadily. Someone said in shock, What happened? Chapter 7:24. Tap, tap, tap. At this moment, the sound of hurried footsteps came from the deck outside the ghost ship. The footsteps were very dense, and they were getting closer and closer, causing everyone's scalps to go numb. There's someone outside. No one knew who exclaimed. Roar, before everyone could react. An incomparably shrill scream rang out beside their ears. The scream was deafening, like the wails of ghosts and the howls of wolves. At the same time, the entire secret chamber began to shake violently. Xiao Bai's stone statue fell to the ground, and the surroundings seemed to be collapsing. "Let's go. Quick, get out." Luo Tianya's expression changed. He pulled Luo Shuiyao and took the lead to rush out. The rest hurriedly followed. This sudden turn of events caused everyone to no longer care about who was the human and who was the ghost. When everyone returned to the second floor of the ghost ship, the entire ghost ship was still shaking violently. The lanterns hanging on the walls were flickering, sometimes dark and sometimes bright. However, everyone's eyes were fixed on the window. Under the pale light, countless black shadows were swaying on the white window paper. The shadows were dragged very long, like evil ghosts bearing their fangs and brandishing their claws. The blood-curdling screams continued. Uft! Streaks of bright, red blood sprayed on the window paper, dyeing it completely red. There were even bloodstains dripping down the window paper to the ground. It was a ghastly sight. Someone trembled. What is that?" No one spoke. The scene before them was simply too terrifying. Everyone subconsciously sucked in a breath of cold air. They felt their scalps go numb and chills run down their spines. Obviously, there was an anomaly on the deck outside the ghost ship. However, no one dared to open the window and look outside. This was because everyone knew that there was an endless black fog shrouding the windows and doors. The black fog could devour people. Then it could cause a commotion outside. It was obviously not human. The commotion outside did not last for long, but to everyone it was no different from a year. When the commotion completely disappeared, everyone heaved a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. Someone muttered, "Did those damn things leave?" At the next moment, suddenly, countless black figures appeared in front of everyone. These figures all held ancient iron spears in their hands and wore black armor. The black armor was bathed in blood, and their faces were pale. Their eyes were incomparably gloomy. What followed was a chilling, murderous intent and cold chi. Yin soldiers. These are Yin soldiers. The old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming, trembled violently and let out a sharp cry as if someone had grabbed his throat. Everyone nearly fainted. Yin soldiers. He did not expect that apart from ghosts, there were also otherworldly soldiers on the ghost ship. Kill! A series of cold and hoarse voices rang out, and the dozens of Yin soldiers in front of them charged toward them with iron spears in their hands, stirring up a gust of wind. Do it! The old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming, roared angrily. He bit his middle finger and quickly drew a talisman on his palm. Then he slapped at an incoming otherworldly soldier with one hand. 5 thunder palm! Boom! A bolt of lightning burst out from his palm, and the lightning immediately scattered the ghost soldier. He had displayed the 5 thunders supreme art of Mount Longhu. Wangmani Padme Hum. Master Ijin spat out lotus flowers as golden words spat out of his mouth. At that moment, his entire body was bathed in Buddhist light. Boom, 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 the rest attacked one after another. Even though they were not good at dealing with ghosts, they still knew how to unleash all of their vital energy and blood to scatter these Yin soldiers. A ghost soldier charged at Yi Chen with an iron spear in his hand. Yi Chen's expression turned cold. Just when he was about to attack, he saw the ghost soldier stop all of a sudden. The depths of its hollow eyes lit up faintly. It looked at Yi Chen in confusion and said in a voice that only Yi Chen could hear, why do you have the little princess's aura on you? Little princess! Yi Chen frowned when he heard that. Just when he was about to ask, he saw that the other party had abandoned him and was charging at the others. I, Qin Yan, am willing to turn into a ghost and protect the little princess for generations to come. Kill, kill, kill. A voice that seemed to be murmuring followed. Oh no, they can't be killed. Zhang Wuming of Mount Longhu used another lightning palm to scatter another ghost soldier. Before he could rejoice, he realized that the ghost soldier he had scattered had appeared again. It's the same here. After Master Yijin used the 6-syllable mantra to suppress several ghost soldiers, he realized that these ghost soldiers would disappear mysteriously. Then they would appear at the door again. The vital energy and blood in Luo Tianya's body exploded. After shattering a ghost soldier, he cried out in shock, "What exactly is this?" The combat strength of these ghost soldiers was not very high. At most, they were only martial Dao grandmasters. However, after they were killed, they would resurrect. If this went on, everyone's true qi would be depleted, and there was no time for them to recover. Ah! A scream was heard. A young man from the Shao clan's camp was pierced by a ghost soldier's iron spear on the spot. Even his soul was shattered. Die! Bai Xiaoyu looked at Yi Chen all of a sudden after slapping a ghost soldier away. His eyes were filled with rage. Yi, why aren't these ghost soldiers attacking you? Is this your doing? Everyone's expressions changed when they saw that. It was because none of the ghost soldiers attacked Yi Chen. It was as if they treated him like air. Their main targets were the people from the 10 ancient families of Shang Santian, especially the Shao clan and the Bai clan. Even Luo Shueyao, who had always trusted Yi Chen, was stunned. She could not help but ask, "Yi Chen, what's going on?" "Is there a need to ask?" Xian Heng smirked coldly. Looks like Xiao Yuanjing was right. This brat is a ghost, and he's with these ghost soldiers. Otherwise, why would he be fine? Let's attack together and kill him. Xiao Yuanjing shouted and charged at Yi Chen. At the same time, Bai Xiaoyu charged over after forcing a ghost soldier back. Attack! At that moment, Luo Tianya and Tang Yiming attacked one after another. The truth was right before their eyes. Luo Shueyao cried when she saw that. "Brother!" Boom! At that moment, terrifying energy ripples swept toward Yi Chen like stormy waves. The entire ghost ship was trembling under such power. Yi, go to hell! Berserk heaven-shattering fist. Bai Xiaoyu charged at the front. His cultivation base erupted, and a fist seal condensed. The space before the fist seal formed a vortex on the spot, and the might it emitted made many people's hearts palpitate. Just when his fist seal was about to touch Yi Chen, a lightning-like gleam shot out of Yi Chen's eyes. He opened his mouth and shouted, "Scram!" Boom! His shout was like a dragon's roar. An extremely overbearing energy erupted from his body and surged toward Bai Xiaoyu. Chapter 725. Bleck! A trail of blood shot out in the air, and the faint sound of bones and joints cracking could be heard. Bang! Under everyone's shocked gazes, a figure flew back like a kite with its string cut. In the end, it crashed heavily onto the ground, causing the ground to tremble. When they saw that the person who spat blood was Bai Xiaoyu, everyone was stunned at that moment. Everyone was stunned at that moment. Even Xiao Yuanjing and the rest who were attacking Yi Chen stopped moving. Extreme shock surged on their faces. Everyone's eyes were trembling, and their faces were twitching. He had lost. Bai Xiaoyu had actually lost, and he had lost so quickly. That was the number 3 on the martial venerable leaderboard. Bai Xiaoyu looked at Yi Chen as if he had seen a ghost. The ghost soldiers around them suddenly stopped. The gaze of the ghost soldier who was talking to Yi Chen earlier turned gentle as he looked at Yi Chen. Die! Yi Chen charged at him in a flash, like a ferocious tiger. At the same time, a golden fist shadow exploded from his mouth and smashed at Bai Xiaoyu. How dare you! At the critical moment, Xiao Yuanjing slapped a terrifying palm and collided with Yi Chen's fist seal. The energy that erupted caused the entire ghost ship to shake violently. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Xiao Yuanjing could not control his body and retreated more than 10 steps back. The scene fell into dead silence once again. Many people secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. They did not expect Xiao Yuanjing to be no match for Yi Qin. Xiang Heng could not stop trembling. How is this brat so powerful? Initially, he thought that Yi Chen would not be a match for Xiao Yuanjing and the rest, even if he held back after killing Duan Tianlang and the rest. However, Yi Chen sent by Xiao Yu flying with just a roll. Even though Xiao Yuanjing attacked with all his might, he was still forced to take more than 10 steps back with one punch. Tang Yiming was dumbfounded. What a monster! After all this time, you're the one who pretended to be weak. Luo Tianya, who was next to him, could not stop his face from twitching. The combat ability that Yi Qin displayed was no weaker than his. He might even be more powerful than him, the number one on the martial venerable leaderboard. At that moment, a black shadow suddenly appeared behind Yi Qin. The black shadow was like a giant bat attacking Yi Chen's back. Luo Shueya reminded him immediately, "Yi Chen, be careful!" A cold voice rang out. "Hee, this marquis must taste your blood and flesh properly. I think the taste must be very unique." It was the Western blood Marquis Bruce, who had secretly taken action, courting death. Yi Qin did not even lift his eyelids. After scoffing coldly, a golden sword gleam appeared behind him in a split second, like a bolt of lightning. Everyone felt their vision blur. When they looked again, they saw Marquis Bruce of the Blood Clan being killed by Yi Chen's sword on the spot. He did not even have time to scream, "All of you will die too." Yi Chen's gaze was sharp and terrifying. Killing intent spread as he extended his hand. As a faint golden light surged, he charged at Xiao Yuanjing and the rest again. "Stop him!" Xiao Yuanjing said hurriedly. Many powerhouses from the Xiao and Bai families attacked Yi Qin at the same time. Meanwhile, he grabbed Bai Xiaoyu with one hand and leaped toward the first floor of the ghost ship. "Those who stand in my way will die." Yi Chen charged into the people from the Xiao and Bai families like a humanoid demonic beast. His every move was filled with a terrifying aura. Bang, bang, following a series of screams and loud noises. Blood mist shot everywhere, and the pungent smell of blood filled the entire second floor of the ghost ship. The woman named Yu Luo Cha was terrified by the scene before her. She said in an extremely sharp voice, "Mad Southernie, you can't kill me. I was conferred by the ancient Egyptian royal family. Die." Before she could finish speaking, Yi Qin slapped her with his palm and crushed her head on the spot, turning it into countless pieces. "Let's die together." Thunder Emperor Thor's body suddenly released several dazzling lightning bolts, and an extremely terrifying aura swept out from his body. Clearly, he realized that they were no match for Yi Qin, so he planned to self-destruct to drag Yi Chen to death. "You're the one who's going to die." Yi Qin threw a punch and crushed his heart into pieces on the spot. Meanwhile, the terrifying energy in his body did not have the time to explode. In just a few breaths of time, the ground was covered in blood. Luo Tianya, who was watching from the side, was shocked when he saw that. His soul was trembling. No one expected Yi Qin to be so brutal. Tang Yiming felt a chill run down his spine. "I can't afford to offend him. I really can't afford to offend this guy." Before he met Yi Qin, he thought that the lunatic Luo Tianya was ruthless enough. He did not expect Yi Chen to be even more ruthless. Almost all the people from the Xiao and Bai families were killed by him. When Yi Chen's cold gaze landed on Luo Tianya and the rest, their hearts skipped a beat. They felt like they were being targeted by some peerless, ferocious beast. Tang Yiming gulped and smiled bitterly. "Brother Yi, there's no hatred between us, right?" At that moment, he hated Xiao Yuanjing to death. Damn it, how is this guy a ghost? He's clearly a demon king who kills without batting an eyelid. I'd rather deal with ghosts than him. On the other hand, Luo Tianya looked at him quietly. A trace of battle intent quietly swept out from his body, and it was faintly getting stronger. At the critical moment, Luo Shueyao subconsciously stood in front of Luo Tinya. She bit her lip and said, "Yi Qin, you can't touch my brother. My brother and the rest have no enmity towards you." What happened? Right at that moment, a puzzled voice came from the side. Everyone looked up and realized that it was Shi Qianhan in white. Yi Qin said in a deep voice, "Where did you go?" Shi Qianhan said slowly, "I've been staying on the first floor. I only rushed up when I heard the commotion above." Only then did he notice the blood on the ground. He looked at the ghost soldiers around him and suddenly asked, "Where are Xiao Yuanjing and the rest?" Luo Shueyao frowned and said, "They ran away." They ran away. Shi Qianhan's gaze focused as if he had thought of something. He turned around and chased after them. "Everyone follow me. Hurry." Master Yijin said, "What happened? Why is Shi Qianhan so flustered?" "Come, let's follow them," Luo Tinya said, and led the crowd to follow them. The rest did not want to fall behind. They had a feeling that something bad was about to happen. Yi Qin wanted to follow them, but he turned around to look at the dozens of ghost soldiers behind him. His gaze was focused on the ghost soldier who was leading them, Qin Yan. His intuition told him that the other party had something to say to him. A smile appeared on the other party's pale face. "You have the aura of the little princess on you. Looks like that Xiao guy from 20 years ago didn't lie to us. The little princess is still alive." Chapter 726. You have the aura of the little princess on you. Looks like that Xiao guy from 20 years ago didn't lie to us. The little princess is still here. Qin Yan's voice was heard. "Xiao guy." Yi Chen's eyes focused. "Is that person called Xiao Bai?" "That's right," Qin Yan said. "After the death of the princess and the disappearance of the little princess, we turned into dark spirits and have been here for more than 100 years. His figure began to dissipate. "Wait," Yi Chen asked immediately. "Is the little princess you're talking about a little girl called Qian who's about 4 or 5 years old? You even know the little princess's nickname. Looks like our guess is right. The little princess is still safe." Qin Yan's body became more and more illusory, including the dozens of ghost soldiers behind him, who were about to be annihilated. "Our wish has been fulfilled. It's time to follow the princess and mistress. Please pass a message to the little princess for me. Live well on the celestial burial planet and don't return to the ancient, desolate realm. Also, you must protect the forbidden ancient, desolate realm tablet." Remember, when the last word was said, Qin Yan and the other dozens of ghost soldiers disappeared from Yi Chen's sight completely. Meanwhile, a stone tablet appeared on the ground. The stone tablet was about 2 feet long and only a palm wide. It emitted a trace of ancient aura and a faint, divine light surged. There seemed to be mysterious engravings on it. Yi Chen walked over and wanted to pick it up, but he realized that it was extremely heavy. He could not help but activate his physical strength to pick it up. Celestial burial planet, ancient desolate realm, forbidden ancient desolate realm tablet? From Qin Yan's last words, he learned a lot of things. First of all, they should have followed the owner of this ghost ship when they were alive. Later on, the ghost ship was attacked and changed drastically, turning into a ghost ship. The middle-aged couple died, and their only daughter's whereabouts were unknown. Qin Yan and the rest turned into dark spirits to guard the ghost ship, waiting for news of the little princess. From the looks of it, Qian was the little princess that Qin Yan mentioned, and she was the daughter of the owner of the ghost ship. The grandpa's son that Qian mentioned must have a certain connection with the owner of the ghost ship. After the ghost ship changed drastically, the man with the surname Sun brought Qian to China. However, for some reason, the two of them were separated. He had always felt that Qian's background was extraordinary, but he didn't expect it to be related to the ghost ship. Furthermore, there were so many twists and turns in the past. Yi Chen looked at the stone tablet quietly and secretly frowned. What exactly is the ancient desolate realm? Is this the destination of the ghost ship? And what is this forbidden, ancient, desolate realm tablet? The immortal burial star that Qin Yin spoke of, he could roughly guess that it was Earth. But why was Earth called the celestial burial planet? Earth had been around for nearly 5 billion years and had experienced the Archean Eon, the Proterozoic Eon, and the Phanerozoic Eon. During this period, many civilizations had appeared. Even now, even with such advanced technology, they were still unable to decipher all of them. On the other hand, humans had only been born for a few million years. They were just a drop in the ocean in the long river of 5 billion years. Even Patriarch Yellow Spring, an old monster who was a tribulation stage expert in his previous life, could only live for 10,000 years. Burying immortals, burying immortals. Could it be that Earth had once buried immortals? Thinking to this point, he was shocked by his own thoughts. He immediately put the stone tablet into his storage ring and turned around to chase after Luo Tianya and the others. The second floor of the ghost ship led to the ancient coffin in the secret room. The group returned once again. Everyone looked at Shi Qianhan, who was standing in front of them, in confusion. Why are we back here? You guys might not know this, but there's actually a secret hidden in this coffin. It's the only entrance to the third floor of the ghost ship. After saying that, Shi Qianhan took a step forward and slapped the side of the ancient coffin with one hand. He shouted, "Rise!" Boom! The entire ancient coffin trembled violently and flipped over in an instant. He immediately leaped into the coffin. "Follow me!" Everyone did not hesitate and leaped into the ancient coffin one after another. However, they were shocked to discover that the location that the ancient coffin led to had changed. It was no longer the secret room from before, but a hall that looked like a training ground. The walls around the hall were engraved with reliefs that looked like human faces. They were very vivid. This is the third floor of the ghost ship. Luo Shuiyao sized up the reliefs on the wall and said suspiciously, "But Xiao Yuanjing and the rest are still not here." Xiang Heng said, "Could they be on the fourth floor?" "They can't be on the fourth floor." Shi Qianhan's gaze focused. He suddenly turned around and looked at Xiang Heng, who had spoken earlier. His eyes were filled with coldness and killing intent. That person didn't expect his reaction to be so big. He was so shocked that he didn't dare to say anything for a moment. The rest looked at each other and felt that Shi Qianhan's reaction was a little abnormal. "Luo," Tianya said calmly, "there are a total of 4 floors on the ghost ship. There's no one on the 4th floor now. Where did Xiao Yuanjing and the rest go?" "Ah!" Right at this moment, someone cried out in shock. He took a few steps back and looked at the reliefs on the wall in fear. "These reliefs can move." Just as he finished speaking, another scream was heard. A bloody hand suddenly appeared from the wall, grabbing a young man from the Xiang family and piercing through the wall. Blurg! Blood immediately seeped out from the wall. It was a ghastly sight. Everyone could not help but take a step back. When they looked again, they saw that the originally motionless faces on the wall had actually started to move. These faces seemed to be stuck to the wall as they squirmed crazily. At the same time, they stretched out their hands, and countless shrill roars were heard. "Save me! Save me!" Everyone's faces turned pale from fear. One of the old faces suddenly looked at Yuan Qitai and said, "Qitai, I'm Hubei. I'm the previous leader of your Ban Shan lineage. Save me! Save me!" Yuan Qitai was shocked. He widened his eyes and looked at the old face carefully. He realized that the other party was the previous leader of the Ban Shan lineage, Hubei, whom he was looking for. At this moment, another face tried to struggle out and said miserably, "Xiaonan, don't you remember me? I'm Xiang Jian, the 7th elder of the Xiang family. I'm your 7th granduncle." Xiang Nan, who was in the crowd, sized him up in shock. His expression suddenly changed. "It's really the 7th elder of the Xiang family. How did you become like this?" When the ghost ship appeared 20 years ago, the entire Shang Santian sent countless powerhouses. Even a group of powerhouses from the secular world of China boarded the ghost ship. However, all of them were left on the ghost ship. No one knew if they were dead or alive. Therefore, many people present had come to investigate whether these people were dead or alive. They did not expect to see them here. Xiangheng, who was beside Xiangnan, was extremely excited. It's really seventh granduncle. The face stretched out a hand and begged, "Good child, save me. Save me. Seventh granduncle won't forget you guys. Seventh granduncle will teach you all his cultivation experience." Chapter 7:27. Xianheng was overjoyed when he heard that. He immediately walked over and grabbed the human face's hand, as if he wanted to pull it out of the wall. However, in the next moment, he was dragged into the wall by the human face's hand. The wall shook violently a few times. A streak of scarlet blood seeped out from the wall. The entire process was completed in the blink of an eye. It was so fast that no one could stop it in time. On the other hand, Xiangheng's face appeared on the wall. When everyone reacted, they all took a step back. Xiang then looked at the face in disbelief. Seventh great-uncle, you. Xiangheng's death shocked and enraged him. He did not expect that, as a member of the Xiang family, the other party would deliberately harm them. Seventh great-uncle has been suffering here for 20 years. I'm almost at the end of my rope. Only a certain amount of blood and food can help me recover. The human face stretched out its hand again and said sincerely, "Good child, seventh great-uncle can tell that you're more talented than that piece of trash from before. Now that seventh great-uncle has recovered, save me, save me." At this moment, another human face spoke from the side. "Tianya, I'm your third uncle. I even carried you when you were young. Save me." Before Luo Tianya could speak, Luo Shuiyao slashed with a sword gleam and immediately cut off the hand that the human face had extended. She said hatefully, "Die, old bastard." Unfilial descendants, unfilial descendants. The human face suddenly became extremely distorted as it cursed miserably. "You'll all die. You'll all turn into human faces and come in to accompany us. Ha ha ha! None of you can escape the curse of the ghost ship. All of you will die. All of you will die!" The human faces on the wall squirmed violently. Their expressions were filled with resentment as they kept cursing the crowd like ghosts wailing and wolves howling. With the previous example, Yuan Chitai did not dare to save the previous leader of the Ban Shan lineage, Hubei. Instead, he said with a pale face, "What exactly did they go through? How did they become like this?" Everyone could not help but look at Shi Qianhan because he was the only person from Shang Santian who had survived 20 years ago. "Don't look at me. I don't know either." Shi Qianhan's expression was cold as he said coldly, 20 years ago I was plotted against by the Xiao clan as soon as I arrived and was thrown out of the ghost ship. So I don't know what happened after that." Yi Qin said while frowning, "Clearly these people are cursed. Their souls and bodies are sealed on the wall. They'll be in pain for eternity." At this point, he looked at everyone deeply. "Everyone, I know that some of these faces are related to you, but I advise you not to be soft-hearted. After 20 years of suffering, their minds have long been twisted, and they can no longer be described as human beings." Everyone was speechless, especially Yuan Chitai and the others. They had gone through all kinds of hardships just to get on the ghost ship and become the previous chief of the 4 sects of grave robbing so that they could rebuild their sect. Unexpectedly, the result was that the person they were looking for had become an existence that was neither human nor ghost, and even wanted to harm them. Evil creature, evil creature. Great Master Yijin put his palms together. He was very compassionate. Luo Tianya, who had been silently sizing up the faces on the wall, suddenly said, "That's not right. Why aren't there anyone from the Xiao clan here?" Yi Chen was confused. "How do you know that there's no one from the Xiao clan here?" Luo Tianya said in a deep voice, "Because my Luo family has investigated the group of people who stepped onto the ghost ship 20 years ago. I know all the faces on the wall, but there's no one from the Xiao clan." Tang Yiming frowned. "That's strange. All the missing powerhouses have turned into human faces. Why isn't there anyone from the Xiao clan?" At the same time, the entire ancient ship suddenly shook violently, as if countless spirits were struggling and wriggling, trying to rush into the ghost ship. A cold voice was heard. It's simple. The faces on my wall are all from my Xiao clan. Everyone turned around and saw Xiao Yuanjing, who had disappeared, walk out from the wall behind them. Compared to his previous sorry state, his brows were filled with darkness. He seemed to be angry and resentful. Luo Tianya narrowed his eyes. Xiao, what did you just say? Xiao Yuanjing looked at him fearlessly, his expression a little ferocious. Seeing that you're about to die, I might as well tell you that the faces on the wall are the work of the powerhouses of my Xiao clan. What did you say? Luo Tianya's expression gradually turned cold. More than 100 years ago, a warship appeared out of thin air on the Wu River in China. Purple energy soared into the sky. The powerhouses of Shang Santian joined forces to investigate the Wu River. Guess what? Xiao Yuanjing licked his lips and said with an evil smile, So this warship doesn't belong to our world. Every piece of building material on the warship is a priceless treasure to Shang Santian. There are dozens of powerhouses who are no weaker than martial venerables guarding the warship. Dozens of martial venerables. Hearing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Yi Chen's eyes flickered a few times. He roughly guessed that the dozens of martial venerables that Xiao Yuanjing mentioned were probably Qin Yan and the other ghost soldiers that he had encountered earlier. Shocking, isn't it? Xiao Yuanjing caught everyone's gaze and smirked coldly. At that time, the powerhouses of Shang Santian realized that if this terrifying force were to successfully appear, it would definitely become a great threat to Shang Santian. Therefore, the powerhouses of Shang Santian secretly investigated and discovered that the owner of the warship was actually a middle-aged couple, and the dozens of martial venerables were their subordinates. Everyone was shocked again when they heard that. With dozens of martial venerables as subordinates, could the other party be an emperor stage powerhouse? The owner of dozens of martial venerables is at least an emperor stage powerhouse. Therefore, Shang Santian hesitated whether to take action or not, but we found out that the couple was injured. At this point, Xiao Yuanjing's gaze was extremely cold. Shang Santian discovered that someone went ashore to buy medicine for this couple. At that time, the mighty figures of Shang Santian pretended to befriend the person who bought the medicine. After probing, they found out that the couple was severely injured and not far from death. Therefore, the powerhouses of Shang Santian pretended to follow the person who bought the medicine back to the ship and sprinkled poison on the middle-aged couple, aggravating their injuries. Luo Shuiyao was so angry that her pretty face turned livid. Despicable! So what? Xiao Yuanjing smirked coldly. At the critical moment, the powerhouses of Shang Santian sent 5 Emperor Stage powerhouses and over 100 martial venerables into the warship. They killed everyone on the warship. He glanced at Luo Shuiyao and her sister disdainfully. At that time, your patriarch was also one of the participants. If you want to talk about despicable, how clean can your Luo family be? Luo Shuiyao had a look of disbelief. Impossible. Luo Tianya was silent, his heart filled with shock. Chapter 728. In that battle, the entire Wu River was dyed red with blood. Xiao Yuanjing continued, I have to say that the middle-aged couple's subordinates were very loyal. They risked their lives to injure more than half of the powerhouses of Shang Santian. Moreover, that middle-aged couple is still protecting a little girl with all their might despite being surrounded by 5 Emperor Realm cultivators from our side. At this point, his expression was a little ferocious. The powerhouses of Shang Santian wanted to capture that little girl. Who would have thought that the old man who bought the medicine would risk his life to protect the little girl and escape at the critical moment? In order to prevent us from chasing after them, the couple actually used the bloodstain spell and turned the entire battleship into a ghost ship. The woman even used the curse spell and killed 4 Emperor Stage powerhouses. Only 1 Emperor Stage powerhouse escaped alive, Everyone was shocked when they heard that. One had to know that the Emperor stage was the realm they had pursued their entire lives. However, the couple still killed for Emperor stage powerhouses despite being heavily injured. Ever since then, that battleship turned into a ghost ship and disappeared from the Wu River again. When the entire Shang Santian chose to forget about it, who would have thought that it would appear again 20 years later? This cycle will repeat itself. A smile appeared at the corner of Xiao Yuanjing's lips. Every time the ghost ship appears, Shang Santian will send people to board the ghost ship to investigate. Yuan Chitai and the rest had extremely ugly expressions, so the rumor that the ghost ship can revive the dead and even lead to the netherworld is fake. Of course it's fake. Xiao Yuanjing smiled disdainfully. That's just a rumor that Shang Santian spread on purpose. Our goal is to use you ants to investigate the ghost ship and exhaust your strength at the same time. The old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming, almost fainted. Damn it, damn it! Shang Santian is simply too vicious. Over the past 100 years, countless powerhouses in the secular world of China had mistakenly believed the rumors of the ghost ship and rushed to board it. They had lost their lives for nothing, including his senior brother. Luo Tianya's eyes flickered as he said coldly, "We're also from Shang Santian. Why didn't we know? Not to mention you guys, even the sword sect and the other 3 sects and 4 groups might not know about it." Xiao Yuanjing said disdainfully, "I'm not afraid to tell you that the martial emperor who escaped alive back then was my Xiao clan's patriarch." Tang Yiming frowned. "So the little girl and crazy all we've been looking for are the survivors of the ghost ship? Not bad." Xiao Yuanjing openly admitted it. After the battle more than 100 years ago, that old thing actually hid on the ghost ship with that little girl. After so many years, all the people who boarded the ghost ship from Shang Santian were killed by that old thing. Yi Qin said slowly, "If that's the case, why did the 2 of them walk out of the ghost ship 20 years ago?" Logically speaking, since Qian and Grandpa Sun were safe on the ghost ship, why did they have to leave? Could it be related to the ancient barren world that Qin Yin spoke of? Because that old thing has gone mad. Xiao Yuanjing smiled non-committally. It can be said that the old thing's master died in battle because he single-handedly caused it. Therefore, the old thing went crazy because he couldn't accept it. It's not hard to understand what a lunatic does. Luo Shueyao looked at the faces on the wall, and her pretty face turned ashen. "Xiao, why is your Xiao clan so vicious that you won't even let the powerhouses of Shang Santian go?" "It's very simple." Xiao Yuanjing slowly spread his hands and looked at his 10 slender fingers. "Because 20 years ago, the powerhouses of my Xiao clan discovered a shocking secret after they boarded the ghost ship. In order to keep the secret, we had no choice but to let the others stay on the ship forever." Everyone was furious and hateful when they heard that. Yi Chen's eyes flickered a few times as he said, "So, you've been causing trouble ever since we boarded the ship. If I'm not wrong, you were the one who caused the lantern to suddenly go out and the death of the Bai family members, right?" "You're quite smart." Xiao Yuanjing looked at him in admiration. "That's right. I was the one who caused everything. My goal was to cause panic. Not only that, I even forged Xiao Bai's fake message to make everyone suspect that you're a ghost and split your forces." He looked at Yi Chen with fear as he said to this point. However, what surprised me was that an ant who rose from the secular world like you actually has a combat power that can threaten me. The old man said angrily, "In other words, when I was the first to step onto the 2nd floor of the ghost ship, I was knocked unconscious and thrown into the secret chamber by your men? No wonder you didn't kill me. You wanted me to lure out Xiao Bai's fake message to mislead everyone." Xiao Yuanjing sneered. "Unfortunately, you found out too late. The one with the surname Xiao. You're really extraordinarily sinister." Tang Yiming clicked his tongue in wonder. After shaking his head, an extreme killing intent suddenly flashed in his eyes. "I'm very curious. Why do you dare to admit what you've done in front of everyone? Could it be that you're really confident that you can withstand all of our wrath? As soon as his voice fell, countless murderous intents swept out and locked onto him. No, 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 Xiao Yuanjing suddenly laughed, because I still have a backup plan. Just as he finished speaking, before anyone could react, a black shadow passed through the wall behind them. The person grabbed Luo Shuiyao, who was the closest to him. The entire process was completed in an instant. By the time everyone reacted, Luo Shuiyao had already been grabbed by the figure and brought to Xiao Yuanjing's side. Luo Shuiyao was terrified. Brother! Be asterisk starred. Luo Tianya's expression changed. After a maniacal roar, an extremely dangerous power erupted from his body. Xiao Yuanjing, you're courting death! Don't move, don't move, Xiao Yuanjing said with a fake smile. Luo Tianya, I know you're very powerful, but don't forget that your sister is in my hands now. If you move, I'll kill her immediately. The figure beside him seemed to be an old man. However, his entire body was extremely withered, as if there was no water in him at all. He looked like a corpse. His face was black and his eyes were scarlet. A monstrous, murderous aura came from his body. Pseudo-Emperor, after sensing the aura coming from the other party, Tang Yiming's expression changed drastically. Tianya, this is a pseudo-emperor. That's not all. Master Yijin cried out in shock. He's not a human, but a corpse puppet. A corpse puppet with the combat strength of a pseudo-emperor. Everyone's scalps went numb. No one expected Xiao Yuanjing to have such a trick up his sleeves. He had the help of a pseudo-emperor corpse puppet. It seemed like everything that had happened previously. It was all done by this corpse puppet. Chapter 729. Xiao Yuanjing, you've really hidden it well. At that moment, Luo Tianya's expression was extremely cold, and his heart was in turmoil. Pseudo-emperor. He had already surpassed a martial venerable, and was only a step away from becoming a martial emperor. Not to mention him, who was ranked first on the martial venerable leaderboard. Even if everyone present joined forces, they would not be a match for a pseudo-emperor. Are you shocked and surprised? Xiao Yuanjing seemed to enjoy everyone's reaction. He smiled faintly and said, This corpse puppet is a member of my Xiao clan. He stepped onto the ghost ship 20 years ago. The faces on the wall were all created by him. In order to not be assimilated by the ghost ship, he refined himself into a corpse puppet and waited for the arrival of the Xiao clan. Humph. Shi Qianhan suddenly sneered. Xiao Yuanjing, do you think that you can rest easy with the help of a pseudo-emperor after capturing Luo Shuiyao? As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward, and an invisible sword intent spread out from his body. There was no sword gleam, but in that instant the surroundings were filled with overwhelming sword chi. Sword intent. Under the sword intent, everyone, including Luo Tianya, felt an irresistible pressure, as if a mountain was descending. Even Yi Chen's eyes narrowed under the sword intent. Shi Qianhan had become stronger again. The most shocking thing was that the sword intent that erupted from Shi Qianhan's body was on par with the Xiao clan's corpse puppet. The smile on Xiao Yuanjing's face froze. Then he seemed to have thought of something and gasped, Why, you're also a pseudo-emperor! Everyone was shocked when they heard that. They looked at Shi Qianhan in shock. No one expected him to break through to the pseudo-emperor stage, especially Luo Tianya, Tang Yiming, and the rest. Their hearts were filled with bitterness and dejection. It could be said that they had grown up listening to Shi Qianhan's legends. They had once thought that they could look down on any genius after reaching this stage. They did not expect Shi Qianhan to step into the pseudo-emperor stage before them. Shi Qianhan smirked coldly. It's all thanks to your Xiao clan. If not for that palm strike from your Xiao clan's martial emperor, I wouldn't have been able to feel the true intent of a martial emperor. Martial monarch was the emperor realm. If he wanted to step into the emperor realm, then he had to comprehend his own emperor realm intent. Only then would he be able to walk the true path of the emperor realm. That day he had charged into the Shao clan in an attempt to rescue his junior sister. In the end, he had forced the Shao clan's martial emperor to break out of his seclusion and heavily injure him with a single palm strike, nearly killing him. However, it could be considered as a blessing in disguise. It also allowed him to experience what the sovereign realm was. On top of that, after stepping onto the ghost ship and meeting you, his Dao heart was completely perfected. His cultivation level naturally broke through to the pseudo-emperor stage. It's time to settle the grudge between your Shao family and me. Shi Qianhan took another step forward, and his sword intent instantly increased. Under this pressure, Shao Yuanjing spat out a mouthful of blood. Right at this moment, a cold voice sounded from the side. Shi Qianhan, don't be complacent. Take a look at this first. Bai Xiaoyu, who had not appeared all this while, slowly walked out with an ice coffin. An extremely beautiful woman in red lay in the ice coffin. Shi Qianhan's body stiffened, and his face twitched. You are! Ha ha ha! Shao Yuanjing laughed out loud and said, Shi Qianhan, do you think I don't know why you're on the ghost ship this time? Are you here for the female corpse in the coffin? Now that the female corpse is in my hands, if you dare to move, we'll destroy the female corpse. Shi Qianhan roared furiously, his eyes bloodshot. No, don't. It could be said that in this world, the person in the ice coffin was his everything, and she was even more important than his life. When he saw you fall into Bai Xiaoyu's hands, Shi Qianhan felt his heart ache to the extreme, to the depths of his soul. He said with a trembling voice, Shao Yuanjing, return you to me. I won't kill you. Return you? Shao Yuanjing smirked coldly. Idiot! Do you still not understand the situation? Do you think you're worthy of negotiating with me? Shi Qianhan took a deep breath in and said, Then what do you want? Shao Yuanjing ignored him and fixed his gaze on Yi Qin. Yi, hand it over. Everyone could not help but look at Yi Qin as soon as he said that. Yi Qin looked at him coldly. What do you want? Stop pretending. Shao Yuanjing roared angrily, his eyes filled with fierceness. Just now, my corpse puppet saw you obtain another stone tablet. As long as you hand the stone tablet to me, I can spare your dog life. The Shao clan had been planning for the stone tablet for decades, and he had stepped onto the ghost ship this time to take it away. He did not expect Yi Qin to get it first. How could he not be furious? Luo Shuiyao was confused. What stone tablet? Why didn't we see it? Stone tablet? Yi Qin squinted and subsequently shook his head. I don't understand what you're talking about. I don't have any stone tablet. He came to a realization. The Shao clan was here for the forbidden, ancient, desolate realm tablet. Great, very great. Shao Yuanjing's expression suddenly turned ferocious. Since you're unwilling to hand it over, don't even think about leaving alive. After saying that, he looked at Luo, Tianya, and Shi Qianhan. As long as you kill Yi, I'll let Luo Shuiyao go and return the female corpse to you. Otherwise, we'll split up. Luo Tianya and Shi Qianhan's expressions changed immediately. Clearly, they did not expect his ultimate target to be Yi Qin. Sensing their hesitation, Shao Yuanjing said coldly, Don't challenge my patience. I'll count to 3. If you don't attack, I'll kill Luo Shuiyao and destroy the female corpse. Luo Shuiyao cried, Brother, don't. Shao Yuanjing grabbed her and slapped her face. He was extremely resentful. TCH, shut up! Luo Tianya's expression changed a few times. In the end, he turned around slowly and looked at Yi Qin. Guilt flashed across his face. Brother Yi, I'm sorry. He had doted on his sister since he was young, afraid that she would be bullied. For Luo Shuiyao, he had once killed his way into the Huang residence alone and forced Huang Yu to kneel. It was also for Luo Shuiyao that he killed Huang Yu mercilessly, even though he did not want to fight Yi Qin now. However, that was only because he was unwilling. Shi Qianhan's eyes were filled with struggle and pain as he looked at Yi Qin. However, it was replaced by determination in the end. Brother Yi, I owe you another life. I'll repay you in my next life. His heart was in a mess. One was his savior, and the other was the love of his life. In the end, you still had a higher position in his heart. It was because he knew that if he lost you, he would rather die. For you, he would rather become enemies with everyone in the world. Thinking to this point, he laughed out loud. I, Shi Qianhan, am unfilial to my master, disloyal to my sect, heartless to my fellow disciples, and unjust to my friends. I'm such an unfilial, heartless, and unjust person. How am I any different from a beast? P.S. Chapter 4. Today's update is over. I'll continue tomorrow. Thank you for your support. Please give me monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you. Chapter 730. At that moment, on the ghost ship, it was already past midnight, and the outside was shrouded by more and more black fog. The dark clouds in the sky surged, and faint lightning flashed through the window paper and exploded in everyone's ears. Inside the ghost ship, the aura was extremely oppressive. The dazzling lightning illuminated everyone's faces, and everyone's faces were extremely pale. At that moment, the number one genius of the Luo family, Luo Tinya, had joined forces with Shi Qianhan, the infamous existence in Shang Santian. The person they were working together to kill was none other than Yi Qin. He had only debuted for less than a year, but his battle record was extremely ferocious. He suppressed everyone in the Chinese cultivation world by himself, and he was known as the number one in China or even East Asia. Tang Yiming, who was ranked number 4 on the martial venerable leaderboard, took a deep breath in and muttered, "A top-notch martial venerable and a pseudo-emperor. This is a sure-kill situation." The expressions of the others changed drastically, especially the old celestial master of Mount Longhu, Zhang Wuming, Master Yijin, and even Yuan Qitai and the rest of the Chinese cultivation world. They were the witnesses of Yi Chen's undefeated legend. From Yi Chen killing Yuan Bupo on the Wave River to Yi Chen killing his way into Korea and Japan, it could be said that Yi Chen was a legend to them. However, even though they were confident in Yi Chen, they did not feel sad at this moment. The legend in their hearts might come to an end today. At that moment, Luo Shuiyao had already fainted from crying. At that moment, Tang Yiming, Tang Jianfeng, Tong Shuhui, Xiang Nan, Lu Yinfeng, and the rest looked at Yi Chen with pity. Even though they could not bear to do it, it concerned Luo Shuiyao's life after all. Under everyone's gaze, Yi Chen placed his hands behind his back without changing his expression. He looked at Xiao Yuanjing coldly. "I thought you were shameless enough, but I didn't expect you to be so shameless." He was using Luo Shuiyao to threaten Luo Tinya. He was using the female corpse in the ice coffin to threaten Shi Qianhan. It could be said that Xiao Yuanjing had a clear grasp of Luo Tinya and Shi Qianhan's weaknesses. Although the two of them were extremely monstrous and had unparalleled battle prowess, they were both passionate people. One of them was obsessed with protecting his sister, while the other was obsessed with love. You asked for all of this today." Xiao Yuanjing's expression was extremely grim. Then he roared at Luo Tinya and Shi Qianhan. "Why aren't you guys killing him? What are you waiting for? Let's fight." Luo Tinya took a deep breath and took a step forward. As his voice fell, the entire ghost ship suddenly became eerily quiet. However, this deathly silence was suddenly broken by the blazing battle intent emanating from his body. A trace of killing intent swept out from Shi Qianhan's body. Like a monstrous wave, it continued to rise and boil. Pooh! Under such an aura, Xiang Nan was naturally injured. He immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and his expression was extremely shocked. "These two people are too strong." He was also in the top 10 of the martial venerable leaderboard. Perhaps he had once asked himself that the gap between him and Luo Tinya was not as big as he had imagined. However, At that moment, the confidence in his heart instantly disappeared. Retreat! Tang Yiming's expression changed. He immediately grabbed a gust of wind and retreated to the side. Even Xiao Yuanjing was no exception. His eyes were filled with jealousy. Luo Tianya and Shi Qianhan's strength had also exceeded his expectations. Brother Yi, I'm sorry. Luo Tianya cupped his fists with a complicated expression. His face was suddenly covered in a cold expression. To show my respect for you, I'll attack with all my might. Boom! At that moment, Luo Tianya stood proudly. The blood essence in his body boiled, and his entire body seemed to have been drenched in gold. He emitted a dazzling light golden light, and a terrifying force surged out along with a light golden light, as if it wanted to tear everything apart. Fight! A deafening elephant's roar exploded from his mouth. Subsequently, he charged at Yi Chen like a ferocious tiger pouncing on its prey. At that moment, he was shrouded in multicolored light. The pressure suppressed everything, making people tremble. Even their souls were trembling. In a flash, he appeared before Yi Chen. Strength of the hell-crushing divine elephant! Luo Tianya shouted and threw a century punch at Yi Chen. A giant elephant shadow appeared behind him. The giant elephant roared as if it wanted to destroy the world. It caused the space to tremble, and there was a faint sign of collapse. Is this the Luo family's ultimate technique? The strength of the hell-crushing divine elephant? It's said that this is an earth-rank cultivation technique. It can transform one's true energy into a giant elephant, causing one's strength to increase by more than several times. Tisk, earth-rank cultivation technique? Yi Chen is in danger. At that moment, Tang Yiming's expression changed again. The rest even held their breaths subconsciously. Luo Tianya's punch was too terrifying. Even he had to retreat. This lunatic's true combat strength is probably infinitely close to a pseudo-emperor. Seeing this, Xiao Yuanjing's pupils constricted violently. His gaze towards Luo Tianya was filled with fear and shock. There was a rumor among the older generation of Shang Santian that Luo Tianya was known as a once-in-a-century genius of the 10 ancient families. If he did not die prematurely, he would definitely become an emperor in the future. Now he had no choice but to believe it. Since you guys want to fight, I'll fight with you guys. Just when Luo Tianya's terrifying punch was about to get close, Yi Chen let out a long roar. His roar was like thunder. Golden light shot out of his eyes and enveloped him completely like 2 scorching suns. In just a short moment, Yi Chen was completely enveloped by the golden light. It was as if golden divine light was spewing out. A terrifying aura slowly spread out. It was like a ferocious beast that had awakened, suppressing heaven and earth. Azura heaven-suppressing kill, slaughter all living beings. A loud shout came from Yi Chen's mouth. Subsequently, a domineering and surging fist blasted at Luo Tianya, who was charging at him. Rumble. The sound wave was like thunder shaking one's soul. Even Luo Tianya could sense this aura. After his pupils constricted, the force of the punch did not slow down at all. There was a hint of excitement in his eyes. Brother Yi, the stronger you are, the more gratified I am. Boom! As the space shook violently, their fists landed on each other's chests. A thunderous, muffled sound exploded in everyone's ears, causing their ears to buzz. Tap, tap, tap. Luo Tianya took a few steps back as he groaned repeatedly. A trace of light, golden blood slowly flowed from the corner of his mouth. If one took a closer look, they would realize that his chest had caved in by more than 3 inches. Yi Chen took a step back as well. However, his expression did not change. There was only a hint of shock between his brows. Luo Tianya's physical body was very strong. It could be said that he was the person with the strongest physical body he had encountered since he returned to Earth. Oh my God, they're actually fighting with their physical strength. The most terrifying thing is that Luo Tianya is at a disadvantage in this battle. Is Yi Chen's physical body that powerful? The people who were paying close attention to the battle felt their scalps go numb when they saw that. Clearly, they did not expect Yi Chen to make Luo Tianya suffer a loss. Chapter 731. They were not the only ones who were shocked. Luo Tianya himself was also shocked. After he stopped in his tracks, his face turned pale. Brother Yi is brave. I admit defeat. After wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, not only was Luo Tianya not angry, the joy in his eyes grew stronger and stronger. The battle intent on his body also surged. Brother Yi, eat my sword. At this moment, Shi Qianhan, who had not made a move, stepped forward. He slowly stretched out his hands, and a sword gleam condensed in his palm. At the next moment, the ice soul sword in the white-haired young man's hand emitted a dazzling cold gleam. Then it split into 8 sword gleams. The 8 sword gleams were as transparent as 8 thin cicada wings, but they carried their own auras as they swallowed and spat out endless cold gleams. In an instant, his surroundings were shrouded by the ceaseless rustling of sword shadows. Each sword light was enough to kill a martial honor. After sensing the power of the sword, the expressions of the surrounding crowd changed drastically. This is the sword pavilion's 5 swords. Its 9 sword gleams. Shi Qianhan has actually evolved 9. Not only is this person's battle prowess unparalleled, but his comprehension is also monstrous. Sword, come. Facing the 8 sword gleams that covered the sky and earth, Yi Chen opened his mouth calmly and spat. The air trembled. Immediately, a sword gleam that was spewing golden sword chi was held in his hand. It was the almighty killer sword. Go. With a thought, the almighty killer sword turned into a lightning-like sword gleam. It took the initiative to meet the 9 sword gleams with terrifying sword chi. The ferocious aura was like a hurricane, faintly containing the might of a dragon and a tiger. Boom! The sword gleam that the almighty killer sword transformed into was like a hot knife through butter. It immediately shattered 7 of the 9 sword gleams, but the light on its body dimmed. With a loud bang, the almighty killer sword shattered. This mid-grade magic flying sword had finally reached the end of its life. Blurg! Yi Chen had been connected to the almighty killer sword since the day it was refined. Now that it was damaged, Yi Chen spat a mouthful of blood. Bang, bang, Shi Qianhan's remaining 2 sword gleams slashed at him one after another. Sparks flew, and Yi Chen staggered a few steps back. He was injured. Even Luo Tianya, who was ranked number 1 on the Martial Venerable leaderboard, could not hurt him. However, as Shi Qianhan attacked, his natal flying sword collapsed, and his mind was instantly injured. He had to admit that a pseudo-emperor was indeed not something a martial venerable could compare to. He's vomiting blood. Yi is vomiting blood. Upon seeing that, Bai Xiaoyu, who was at the side, laughed hysterically out of excitement. Yi, aren't you very capable? Let's see if you can survive this. Meanwhile, apart from being shocked, Tang Yiming and the rest fell into silence. There was only respect in their eyes when they looked at Yi Chen. If they had been in Yi Chen's shoes earlier, they would not have been able to survive Shi Qianhan's 1 sword 9. The faces of Yuan Qitai and the others were extremely bitter, and a trace of sorrow grew stronger in their hearts. Is the undefeated legend going to be defeated in the end? Shi Qian's cold eyes twitched when he saw Yi Chen spitting blood. He said in a trembling voice, "Brother Yi, don't blame me." He, Shi Qianhan, had no friends in his life. Yi Chen might be considered half a friend. He did not want to be Yi Chen's enemy because Yi Chen was his savior. Although the 2 of them did not interact much, they felt that they had a lot in common. However, Yu was in the hands of Xiao Yuanjing and the rest. Perhaps he had considered working together with Luo Tianya and Yi Chen to fight Xiao Yuanjing and kill Xiao Yuanjing and the rest before they destroyed Yu and Luo Shuiyao. However, he did not dare. Yes, he did not dare to take the risk. Luo Tianya did not dare to take the risk either. After all, Xiao Yuanjing had a pseudo-emperor by his side. The two of you can't kill, even though you're working together, Xiao Yuanjing said coldly. Don't think that I don't know that you guys are going easy on me. I'll give you guys another 10 minutes. If Yi doesn't die, don't blame me for being ruthless. Kill. Without giving Yi Chen a chance to catch his breath, Luo Tianya endured the pain in his heart and charged over with terrifying true energy again. He unleashed all of his cultivation base, a palm print condensed in his hand. It was like a ferocious beast pouncing. A terrifying aura surged as it suppressed Yi Chen. Break it. At that moment, a dragon's roar exploded from Yi Chen's mouth. As magic power surged, a sharp palm print left his hand and charged at Luo Tinya's palm. Kill. The moment Yi Chen was held back by Luo Tinya, Shi Qianhan swung his sword. Wind and thunder rumbled. The pressure seemed to want to slash the entire ghost ship and shatter the world. Clang! The sword landed on Yi Chen's back on the spot, causing an ear-piercing sound of metal colliding. Although it did not cut Yi Chen's skin, the terrifying recoil sent Yi Chen's body flying. Under the joint attack of the two powerhouses, Yi Chen began to lose focus and gradually fell into a disadvantageous position. At that moment, countless gazes were trembling and twitching. The legend was about to end at that moment. A skinny figure charged out from Xiao Yuanjing's side. The person took advantage of the battle between Yi Chen, Luo Tinya, and Shi Qianhan to attack Yi Chen's head viciously. When he saw that the person who attacked was the pseudo-emperor stage corpse puppet next to Xiao Yuanjing, Tang Yiming flew into a rage. Xiao Yuanjing, you're shameless! Stop him! Tang Yiming let out a long roar. At that moment, he could no longer hold it in. The aura on his body suddenly erupted, and he charged at the corpse puppet. He was an upright person to begin with. For the sake of Luo Shuiao's safety, he could tolerate Luo Tinya and Shi Qianhan working together to fight Yi Chen. However, he could not tolerate someone attacking him when Yi Chen was at a disadvantage. Roar! The corpse puppet roared and sent Tang Yiming flying with a single palm strike. Subsequently, it turned its palm into a fist again and slapped Yi Chen's head. At that moment, Yi Chen sensed it too. A blood-red gleam flashed through his eyes. A torrential, murderous aura swept through the sky as he threw a palm strike with all his might. Rumble! The two palm prints collided fiercely, and a terrifying energy erupted. It was incomparably domineering, and it spread out in all directions like a shockwave. At the same time, Luo Tianya and Shi Qianhan's attacks came at the same time. The terrifying force almost caused the entire ghost ship to tremble violently. Under the terrifying recoil, Yi Chen's body was sent flying. He smashed through the door of the ghost ship and flew out completely. In the end, he was devoured by the black fog outside the ghost ship. A terrifying sound of something being chewed was heard, causing one's scalp to go numb. Dead silence. The ghost ship was dead silent. Everyone's gazes froze, and their faces were stunned. They had seen that the black fog could eat people. Now, Yi Chen had been sent into the black fog. Chapter 732. Mr. Yi, he's dead. Yuan Chi Tai and the rest felt like they had been struck by lightning, and they almost fainted. Plop! Shi Qianhan knelt on one knee, his body twitching. Brother Yi, rest in peace. Luo Tinya took a deep breath in and closed his eyes in pain. He clenched his fists tightly. B*****. A furious roar was heard. Xiao Yuanjing looked at the two of them with a ferocious expression. Who asked you to send him flying from the ghost ship? You deserve to die. One of the reasons why he wanted to kill Yi Chen was to eliminate future trouble. The most important reason was that Yi Chen had the forbidden ancient desolate realm tablet in his hands. It was related to the Xiao family's plan that had lasted for nearly 100 years. Now that Yi Chen had been sent into the black fog, the whereabouts of the forbidden ancient desolate realm tablet were naturally lost. How could he not be furious? Despicable. Luo Tianya raised his eyes and locked them onto him. His gaze was extremely cold. If it wasn't for your men who ambushed Brother Yi from behind, how could he have flown out of the ghost ship? Xiao Yuanjing, Shi Qianhan roared, extreme killing intent surging in his eyes. We're done. You should hand you over to me, right? If it were not for you, why would he have been threatened? He would not have attacked Yi Qin either. At that moment, he could not wait to tear Xiao Yuanjing into pieces. Xiao Yuanjing's heart turned cold when he met their gazes. However, he still sneered and said, I only asked you to kill Yi, not to send him flying. You've made me unhappy, so how can I make you happy? Boom! Luo Tianya took a step forward, his pressure shaking the sky. Are you going back on your word? Xiao Yuanjing immediately denied it. Don't worry. As long as I leave the ghost ship alive, I'll naturally let Luo Shuiyao go. Although Yi Chen was dead now, he knew very well that he had offended Luo Tianya and Shi Qianhan at the same time. He only had a pseudo-emperor stage corpse puppet, so it was impossible for him to be a match for Shi Qianhan and Shi Qianhan. Therefore, Luo Shuiyao and the female corpse in the ice coffin were his only protection. As long as he held them in his hands, Shi Qianhan and Shi Qianhan would not dare to act rashly. You! Luo Tianya and Shi Qianhan flew into a rage. If looks could kill, Xiao Yuanjing would have died countless times. At this moment, Great Master Yijin at the side cried out in alarm. Oh no, a black fog is coming in! Everyone looked over immediately. They saw wisps of black mist invading the entrance of the door that Yi Chen had smashed. They looked like leeches wriggling. Before the crowd could react, the invading black fog seemed to have smelled blood and rushed toward the crowd. A member of the Luo clan was struck by the black mist and was sucked into it. Then a series of miserable screams rang out. Aha! Save me! Save me! Kacha! Kacha! A bone-chilling sound of teeth gnawing and flesh tearing rang out from within the black fog. There was also a pungent smell of blood. The screams also disappeared. The black fog attacked everyone again. At the critical moment, Great Master Yijin decisively took off the prayer beads hanging in front of his chest. The prayer beads immediately emitted a dazzling golden light. The golden light was like a dazzling canopy, completely blocking the black fog. However, Great Master Yijin's face was extremely pale. The light of the prayer beads in his hand began to dim. It was obvious that he could not hold on for long. Let me help you. The old celestial master of Longhu sect, Zhang Wuming, formed a seal with both hands and formed a lotus seal. As soon as the lotus seal landed on the ground, it suddenly expanded. Purple energy soared into the sky and blocked the black fog in front of everyone. Let's go, let's go. This sudden scene terrified everyone. Xiao Yuanjing grabbed Luo Shuiyao with one hand and called out to Bai Xiaoyu, who was carrying the ice coffin, and ran to the 4th floor of the ghost ship. Shameless! Luo Tianya and the rest were furious when they saw this. At such a critical moment, it was one thing for Xiao Yuanjing not to stay behind to fight the enemy together, but he actually abandoned them and ran away. Xiao Yuanjing, return you to me. Shi Qianhan's eyes were bloodshot as he chased after them with disheveled hair. His eyes were filled with hatred, monstrous hatred. At the critical moment, Great Master Yijin shouted, Patron Luo, fellow Jean, leave. I can't hold on for long. Master, Luo Tinya's expression changed. Let's go, let's go. Otherwise, all of you will die. There's more and more black fog. We can't stop it alone. Great Master Yijin laughed out loud. The reason why I boarded the ghost ship was to resolve the ghost ship and save hundreds of thousands of people in the Chinese cultivation world from the sea of suffering. Today, I'm willing to sacrifice myself to the devil to buy you some time. Hearing that, everyone felt bitter in their hearts. In the end, Luo Tianya took a deep breath in and said, Let's go! With that, He led everyone to the 4th floor of the ghost ship. After these people left, the prayer beads in Great Master Ijin's hand exploded. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and the black fog surged over again. Amitba, if I don't go to hell, who will? Master Ijin immediately cut his palm. From the huge wound, countless amounts of golden blood flowed out. How many times do I live? How many times do I die? It's been like this since ancient times. How many gods and ghosts have there been? Returning to the origin, he chanted the scripture softly. Just as the black fog was about to approach him, he waved his withered hands and sprinkled his blood. He was a Buddhist. Today he was willing to use all his lifespan and cultivation to destroy the otherworldly item in front of him to buy some time for Luo Tinya and the rest. Puffed. Golden blood splattered into the sky like a prairie fire. As soon as the black fog came into contact with the golden blood, it immediately let out crackling sounds like beans being fried. Screams immediately came from the black fog. Even so, the black fog still surged towards Great Master Ijin crazily. In the end, the golden blood in Great Master Ijin's body was almost exhausted. He immediately sat down cross-legged and slapped his palm on the top of his head. The remaining golden blood quickly flowed from the top of his head to his body. Not long after, Great Master Ijin's body turned golden, like a Buddha that was plated with a layer of gold powder. Namo Amitabhaya, Dotajedoi, Dodiata, Amritapopi, Amritapopi, Zidapopi. Sanskrit chants that were similar to the chanting of Buddhas slowly came out of Great Master Ijin's mouth. His figure floated in the air, as if he had transformed into a blazing sun, emitting a scorching brilliance. If one took a closer look, they would realize that his body was burning. Xiao Yuanjing and the other two rushed to the 4th floor of the ghost ship in one go. Seeing that there was no way out, by Xiao Yu's heart sank. Yuanjing, what should we do now? Are we going to die on the ghost ship? Chapter 733. What's the hurry? Xiao Yuanjing smirked coldly with extreme confidence. Since I dare to come to the ghost ship, I must be prepared to escape unscathed. Do you see these stone coffins in front of you? You and I will lie in the stone coffins and seal them. Then we will control the stone coffins to fly out of the ghost ship. We will be able to leave the ghost ship alive. Bai Xiaoyu was shocked when he heard that, but isn't the outside of the ghost ship shrouded in black fog? Can these stone coffins really protect us? What do you know? Xiao Yuanjing snorted coldly. My Xiao clan has already investigated. These black fog are only interested in flesh and blood. When the stone coffins are all sealed, how can they hurt us? Furthermore, Shi Qianhan was severely injured by my Xiao clan back then. He was placed in a stone coffin and thrown off the ghost ship, but he did not die. My Xiao clan discovered the mystery behind it. All right, there's no time to lose. Let's get ready. Bai Xiaoyu was overjoyed when he heard that. He turned around and was about to prepare. Right at this moment, an exceptionally shrill voice seemed to have pierced through the void. Xiao Yuanjing, return you, to me. The next moment, Shi Qianhan chased after him with bloodshot eyes. His eyes were filled with madness, and it was heartbreaking. Lunatic, this lunatic. Xiao Yuanjing's expression changed instantly. He immediately said to the corpse puppet beside him, "Stop him. You must stop him." Roar! The corpse puppet charged forward fearlessly. Get lost! In a fit of rage, Shi Qianhan slashed out with his sword. A ray of sword light cut through the void and landed heavily on the corpse puppet. The corpse puppet let out a painful roar as a ghastly sword wound appeared on its chest. Quick! Prepare the stone coffins. Xiao Yuanjing had goosebumps all over his body when he saw that. He knew that Shi Qianhan had gone mad. He had really gone mad for a female corpse. Rumble! With two loud bangs, the two stone coffins smashed heavily onto the ground. Bai Xiaoyu hurriedly roared, "It's done!" Let's go, let's go! Xiao Yuanjing could no longer hold it in when he saw his pseudo-emperor stage corpse puppet being pushed back by Shi Qianhan. He immediately rushed into the stone coffin. Xiao Yuanjing, where are you going? Return my sister. At that moment, another furious voice rang out. Luo Tianya charged over with disheveled hair. At that moment, his entire body was emitting a violent aura like an enraged beast. Lunatics, all of you are lunatics. Xiao Yuanjing's expression changed, and he immediately threw Luo Shuiyao to Luo Tianya. Bang! An extremely violent force shook the entire ghost ship. Shi Qianhan punched through the corpse puppet's chest and pounced at Xiao Yuanjing. Give me back, you, Xiao Yu, stop him. Xiao Yuanjing's eyelids twitched when he saw that his corpse puppet had been pierced through. He pushed Bai Xiaoyu toward Shi Qianhan under his terrified expression. No. Xiao Yuanjing, you despicable. Bai Xiaoyu did not expect that he would be betrayed by Xiao Yuanjing at such a critical moment. Wasn't he courting death by asking him to stop Shi Qianhan? Die! Shi Qianhan, who had fallen into madness, forcefully blew Bai Xiaoyu up with a single punch. The entire process happened in an instant. Xiao Yuanjing was also enraged. He sneered. All right, since you won't let me live, then everyone can forget about living. After saying that, he slapped the ice coffin away from the ghost ship, and it was completely enveloped by the black fog outside. Now you are! Shi Qianhan's eyes widened. In the next moment, he actually rushed out of the ghost ship with his physical body and chased after the ice coffin. Shi Qianhan, no. Luo Tianya's expression changed, and he hurriedly stopped him. One had to know that the outside was filled with black fog. Any living person who came into contact with a trace of the black fog would be instantly eaten by the creatures inside. However, Shi Qianhan had actually gone to this extent for a female corpse. You don't go. As soon as Shi Qianhan rushed into the black fog outside the ghost ship, he immediately felt countless mouths tearing at his body. In just a few breaths' time, the flesh on his thigh was almost completely eaten, but he remained unmoved. His eyes were fixated on searching for the ice coffin. In the end, he found the ice coffin on the deck. Ignoring the intense pain coming from his body, he leaped to the ice coffin and carried it back into the ghost ship. At the same time, Xiao Yuanjing lay in the stone coffin. After quickly closing the lid, he unleashed all his cultivation and rushed out of the ghost ship. When Luo Tianya, Tang Yiming, and the rest saw Shi Qianhan, their faces twitched violently, and they could not help but gasp. At that moment, Shi Qianhan could no longer be described as a human. His thighs, arms, and even face were covered in blood. Countless pieces of flesh had been bitten off, and it was a horrible sight. It would not be an exaggeration to describe him as a human-shaped skeleton. Shi Qianhan looked at the unharmed woman in the coffin with an extremely gentle gaze. A hint of infatuation appeared at the corner of his lips. It's good that you're fine. It's good that you're fine. The next moment, he suddenly raised his head and looked at Luo Tianya and the rest beside him. Hide in the stone coffin and seal it. You can avoid the black fog and leave. Luo Tianya's expression was complicated. He had thought that he was crazy enough for his sister, Luo Shuiyao, but he did not expect Shi Qianhan to be even crazier for a dead person. Shi Qianhan took a deep look at the female corpse in the coffin and kissed her gently through the coffin lid. Then he closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the aura on his body suddenly changed. If he was a lunatic before, then he was now a tyrant who wanted to slaughter the world. Help me take care of you, if you can return to China alive, then help me bury her. Then a voice mixed with reluctance fell. Shi Qianhan turned around and leaped out of the ghost ship again. He rushed into the black fog and chased after Xiao Yuanjing's stone coffin. In the first half of my life, I lived for my master and my sect, and the second half of my life was for you, I was disloyal to my sect, unfilial to my master, heartless to my fellow sect members, and unjust to my friends. Brother, Yi saved my life, but I killed him with my own hands. I'm a sinner. Although you can't speak, I know that if she were alive, she would not be ashamed of me. Today, Qian Han will atone for his sins." As the murmur fell, Luo Tianya and the rest were stunned. Outside the ghost ship, in the endless black fog, a stone coffin fell crazily like a meteor. Shi Qianhan, who was hiding in the stone coffin, sneered, "Mad Southerny, Shi Qianhan Luo Tianya, Tang Yiming. So what if you guys are geniuses? You still ended up dying in the black fog. Only I, Xiao Yuanjing, am the one who survived to the end." At this moment, the entire stone coffin shook violently, as if something heavy had smashed onto the coffin lid. What happened? Xiao Yuanjing's expression changed, and he was filled with fear. The next moment, a huge hand that had been gnawed to the point where only bones were left pierced through the coffin lid and his heart. Bang! The coffin lid shattered with a loud bang. Xiao Yuanjing's eyes widened as he stared at the human-shaped skeleton outside. The human-shaped skeleton wore a white robe that was riddled with holes and stained with blood. "Lunatic, you lunatic. You'd rather die than let me go. Why? Why?" Blood dripped from Xiao Yuanjing's mouth. He wanted to roar indignantly, but he was instantly enveloped by countless black fog. Chewing sounds could be heard in the darkness. "Brother Yi, I've avenged you. I still owe you a life. I can only repay you in my next life." A murmur turned into nothingness. P.S. Chapter 4. Today's update is over. Please give me monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you for your support. Chapter 734. On the third day after the ghost ship ended in a villa in Yang City, China, the sound of tables and stools being smashed could be heard. "Get lost, I don't want to see you. I'll never forgive you for the rest of my life." At the next moment, a handsome, purple-robed man was pushed out of the room, and the door was slammed shut again. The purple-robed man revealed a helpless expression, but his eyes were filled with guilt and shame. At this moment, a young man in green walked over without a trace. He winked and said, "Is this girl still angry at you?" "Luo," Tinya sighed softly, "a grown girl can't be kept at home." That day they had used Shi Qianhan's method to hide themselves in the stone coffin and avoided the black fog outside the ghost ship. When they woke up, they realized that they had landed on a small island at the edge of the Bermuda Triangle. This made them feel like they had survived a disaster, but they were also shocked. Clearly, they did not expect what Shi Qianhan had said to be true. The group of people were injured, and it took them some time to arrive in China. They did not return to Shang, Santian immediately. Instead, they recuperated in Yang Junlin's villa. After Luo Shueyao woke up and found out about Yi Chen's death, she locked herself in her room quietly. She did not eat or drink, and she did not see anyone, especially her brother. Tang Yiming stared blankly at the room in front of him and comforted. "Give this girl some time. I believe she'll understand you." "Haha, Luo," Tinya laughed self-deprecatingly. "Even if this girl can forgive me, I won't forgive myself. I, Luo Tinya, have always had a clear conscience, but I joined forces with someone to kill Brother Yi." Tang Yiming's expression was complicated as his lips moved slightly. "After this, I finally understand. People know how terrifying ghosts are, but ghosts know how vicious the human heart is. The human heart is the most terrifying thing. It's a pity." Although he did not say it was a pity, Luo Tinya nodded silently. He looked up at the sky and muttered, "That's right, what a pity." Before everyone boarded the ghost ship, who would have thought that it would be so dangerous? In the end, only 10 out of 50 people returned alive. Great Master Yizhen, this eminent monk, exhausted all of his cultivation and lifespan to create time for everyone to leave. Most importantly, the ghost ship swallowed 2 geniuses that were hard to come by in 100 years in the cultivation world. One of them was Mad Southern Yi, the undefeated legend who had risen from humble beginnings. Ever since he debuted, He had won every battle and had never been defeated. In the end, he was able to rival the martial venerable leaderboard. One was a rare sword Dao genius in Shang Santian, but he betrayed his sect for a woman and became enemies with everyone in the world. In the end, he ended his life for a female corpse, Shi Qianhan of the demonic Dao. Tang Yiming was equally shocked in his heart. He would never forget how Shi Qianhan had fearlessly charged into the black fog for the sake of the female corpse in the ice coffin on the ghost ship. After the man who had gone crazy for love took back the ice coffin, he was almost unrecognizable. He rushed into the black fog again, swearing to kill Xiao Yuanjing even if he had to die. He could not forget that Luo Tianya, who was ranked #1 on the martial venerable leaderboard, and Shi Qianhan, who was at pseudo-emperor stage, could not kill Yi Qin even when they worked together. If Xiao Yuanjing had not gotten the pseudo-emperor stage corpse puppet to launch a sneak attack, the outcome would have been unknown. In his eyes, that skinny figure was incomparably disdainful and oppressive. If these two people did not die, they would definitely become emperors in the future, or even reach a higher realm. At that time, they would definitely be able to suppress Shang Santian. A few seconds later, Tang Yiming could not help but ask, "Do you think Xiao Yuanjing is dead?" Luo Tianya's eyes turned cold. After a few seconds of silence, his killing intent caused the space to tremble. "I'll go into closed-door cultivation when I return this time. I won't come out until I reach Emperor stage. He better pray that he's dead. Otherwise, the Xiao family won't be able to withstand my anger." At that moment, Tang Jianfeng walked over quickly and said hesitantly, "Brother Tianya, Brother Yiming, Dragon Soul, someone from the secret bureau came to ask about Yi Qin. Should we?" Tang Yiming could not help but look at Luo Tianya. Luo Tianya closed his eyes and took a deep breath in before opening them and saying, "We can't hide it anymore. Tell them about Brother Ye's death. Tell them that he was devoured by the black fog. Don't mention what Xiao Yuanjing did." Tang Jianfeng was stunned. "Why?" "You idiot." Tang Yiming slapped him and said angrily, "If you let Dragon Soul and Yi Chen's family know that Yi Chen was killed by the Xiao family, it'll be a disaster for them. Instead of letting them live in hatred for the rest of their lives, it's better not to know about it." Outside the Yang family villa, Niu Qingshan was waiting bitterly with Dragon Soul's vice-captain, Liang. Niu Qingshan was overjoyed when he learned that Luo Tianya and the rest had returned 2 days ago. However, he could not help but feel anxious when he realized that there was no trace of Yi Qin among the survivors. He requested to meet Luo Tianya and the rest that night, but Luo Tianya and the rest had been recuperating in closed-door cultivation. At that moment, Tang Jianfeng, who had gone in to report, walked out quickly. Niu Qingshan hurriedly went up to him. "How is it? Do you have Ye's whereabouts?" Tang Jianfeng's lips moved slightly. "Old Niu, brother Yi is dead. Boom!" Niu Qingshan felt a bolt out of the blue in his head, and his mind went blank. "Yi is dead. Impossible." "That's impossible," he roared and looked at Tang Jianfeng with bloodshot eyes. "Are you lying to me? Am I right? Yi is only missing. He's not dead at all, right?" Even Li Ying, who was beside him, could not help but be stunned. That man who was as powerful as a god was actually dead. That was impossible, right? "Old Niu, brother Yi is really dead." Tang Jianfeng held back the bitterness in his heart and told him the cause of Yi Chen's death according to Luo Tianya's instructions. Blurg! Niu Qingshan almost fainted when he heard that. "Impossible, that's impossible." He had witnessed Yi Chen's growth along the way. To him, Yi Chen was a young man that he admired. He also regarded him as the future hope of the Chinese cultivation world. He even had the intention to pass the position of Dragon King to Yi Chen. However, Yi Chen was dead now. His hope was gone, and everything was destroyed. Niu Qingshan could not help but cry, "Yi, I've advised you more than once not to board the ghost ship. Why didn't you listen? Why didn't you listen? Jiang Yuheng was like that back then, and you're the same now. In the end, you still followed in Jiang Yuheng's footsteps. You're asking me to send my son off. How am I supposed to explain this to your family? Blurg. Dark red blood spurted from his mouth. Niu Qingshan felt his vision turn black, and he lost consciousness. Chapter 735. That afternoon, all the cultivation forums in China pinned a piece of news at the same time. A series of blood-red words were like a bolt out of the blue, shaking the hearts of hundreds of thousands of cultivators in China. The Tiannan #1, the China #1, the East Asia #1, the undefeatable Mad Southern. Mad Southerny is dead. A legend has fallen. Meanwhile, there was a detailed description of Yi Chen's achievements in his life, including killing the Tiannan #1, Yuan Bupo, single-handedly on the Surge River, suppressing Japan and Korea alone, and so on. At this moment, the Chinese cultivation world was shaken, and the entire world was in an uproar. No one expected Yi Chen, who had won every battle like a god and a demon, to die. The legend of a generation had finally come to an end. For a moment, the news was like a thunderclap that shook the world. Be it in China or abroad, everyone was shocked. Mad Southerny is a once-in-a-century genius in the Chinese cultivation world. He's also the hope of the Chinese cultivation world. He's so amazing. It's such a pity that he died just like that. Yeah, it's a pity. We still hope that he can break into the West and continue his legend. From now on, there will be no more undefeatable Mad Southern in the world. Heavens, may I ask what the Chinese cultivation world has done to anger the heavens and the people? How dare you destroy our hope? Countless Chinese cultivators discussed among themselves. They sighed softly, felt pity, and stomped their feet. It could be said that Yi Chen was too important to the Chinese cultivation world. He was like a legend that people looked up to but wanted to surpass. It turns out that this powerful Asian man failed to escape the judgment of fate. This person killed our Western giants, Titan and Fire Emperor. The International Tribunal wanted to punish him, but he's lucky that he's dead. Once Mad Southerny is dead, there will be no one in the East. Compared to the grief of the Chinese cultivation world, the other countries heaved a sigh of relief and clapped their hands in joy. Especially in Korea and Japan, countless cultivators held a memorial for the powerhouses who had died under Yi Chen's sword. They even built a statue of Yi Chen and made him kneel before the graves of the dead. China, Yang City. The bar where Yi Chen had killed by Zhang Yuan in Shijingshan was empty at the moment. There were a couple of silhouettes sitting inside. If there were outsiders present, they would definitely realize that these people were powerhouses on the heaven leaderboard. They were Yang Junlin, Han Qinhu, Yan Nanfei, Peng Yuanqing, Li Yunxia, and so on. At this moment, the atmosphere in the tavern was gloomy and deathly silent. After Yang Junlin raised a bowl of warm wine, he raised it over his head and looked up at the sky. Supreme Yi, have a safe journey. I'll toast you with the first bowl of Junlin. After saying that, he poured the bowl of wine onto the ground, allowing the fragrance of the wine to permeate the air. He said in a trembling voice, Junlin has rarely submitted to anyone in my life. You are the first. The others also poured their wine on the ground one after another. His expression was one of extreme grief. Tiannan Miaojiang. Ever since Yi Chen helped the White Miao village to destroy the Black Miao village back then, the Black and White had merged. After a short half a year of development, countless Miao villages were built in the entire Miaojiang. Xiaoya, who was dressed in plain clothes, stared blankly at the news that was sent to her. Her delicate body could not stop shaking, and her beautiful face was so pale that there was no color in it at all. When she heard the news, she could not believe it, nor was she willing to believe it. She was so sad that she could not breathe. The man that she used to like, the man who destroyed the Black Miao village, killed the dragon, and saved thousands of people in the White Miao village from the abyss of suffering. Her master, dead. Meanwhile, a one-armed old lady with a walking stick stood behind her. The old lady had a bitter expression on her face as she stood aside quietly. Granny, pass down my order. All the people in the Miao village will wear mourning clothes for Master for 3 days. Although Master is dead, the Miao King will only be kept for Master from now on. Ganzhou Morong residence. After Yi Chen killed the Morong family's number one, Morong He, the Morong family submitted to him. Yi Chen chose Yu Shasha to manage the Morong family for him. In the Morong residence's villa, Yu Shasha hugged Morong Shui and could not stop crying. Sister Shui, brother Yi is dead. He was such a good person. How could he die just like that? Shasha, the dead, can't be resurrected. You have to restrain your grief and take care of yourself. Morong Shui patted her back gently, but there was an unknown gleam in her eyes. On the spiritual medicine mountain, 2 old figures stood at the peak of the mountain. Yao Bingyue, who was as old as an old lady, was extremely excited. Father, that fiend is finally dead. You don't know how afraid and how much I was of him. Now that he's dead, I can finally heave a sigh of relief. Yao Huayuan was like an old man on the verge of death as he panted. But Mr. Yi took away our life force. We're so old now. Now that he's dead, who can help us regain our youth? The Yi family definitely has one. Extreme hatred flashed through Yao Bingyue's eyes. Yi has such a great divinity. It's impossible that he didn't teach it to the Yi family. Perhaps he left some pill formulas behind. The Tang family in Hong Kong was holding a funeral at the moment. The reason being that the old master of the Tang family was dead. However, what was surprising was that there were 2 memorial tablets erected at the funeral venue. Tang Ning, who was dressed in mourning clothes, knelt before old Master Tang's memorial tablet. She was in a daze. Half an hour ago, the Tang family found out about Yi Chen's death. Old Master Tang vomited blood on the spot. Before he died, he forced Tang Ning to kneel before him and reminded, Mr. Yi has done the Tang family a great favor twice. After I die, you must ensure the Yi family's prosperity for a long time. The Tang family will live and die with the Yi family. Tiannan, the Yi residence. Compared to the shock and regret, the Yi family was the most sorrowful. The hundreds of Star Pavilion members guarding outside the Yi family villa were all wearing mourning clothes and kneeling on one knee. In the villa, everyone who was related to Yi Chen was gathered. All of them looked at Yi Chen's parents and Su Yuhan in the middle with grief on their faces. Yi Chen's mother held Yi Chen's photo with both hands. Her eyes were filled with tears of blood. Xiaoqin, my Xiaoqin, how did you die? How did this happen? How are your father and I going to live for the rest of our lives? If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have let you board the ghost ship no matter what. When the news of Yi Chen's death came, she fainted from crying a few times. Her heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife, and she was extremely sad and regretful. Yi Hai stood at the side as if he had been petrified. Tears rolled down his eyes as he muttered, "It's all your mother and my fault. It's all your mother and my fault." "Ha ha!" Su Yuhan hugged her daughter in grief. Her face was pale, and she staggered, almost unable to stand steadily. "You were like this 6 years ago, and you're still like this 6 years later." Ha ha! Meng Meng, who had just turned 5 in her arms, quietly looked at the photo of her father in her grandmother's hand. A few seconds later, tears suddenly flowed from the corner of the little girl's eyes. "Daddy's dead. I don't have a daddy anymore." Chapter 736. Just when the outside world thought that Yi Chen was dead in an unfamiliar place, Yi Chen lay quietly on the ground, not moving at all. Ever since he was forced out of the ghost ship by Luo Tianya, Shi Qianhan, and the other 2, he first encountered the black fog outside the ghost ship. Not to mention that the dark creatures in the black fog could not bite Yi Chen's body. Even when he released his Emperor's might, the evil creatures could not get close to him within a 3-meter radius. On the other hand, the monkey that had been hiding on his body jumped out at the critical moment. It was like a fish in water in the black fog, devouring the dark creatures in the black fog crazily. The monkey chased crazily in the darkness, as if there was something at the end of the darkness attracting it. Yi Chen had no choice but to chase after it. However, he encountered a spatial rift along the way. The spatial rift was like a well of gods and demons that sucked the man and the monkey in. At the critical moment, he used his body to protect the monkey with all his might, trying to find an exit in the spatial rift. After finally finding the exit, his body was on the verge of being damaged. He was covered in blood and fainted. Throughout the 3 days, Yi Chen had woken up countless times. However, he was not very conscious each time. He fell asleep again in a daze. On the other hand, the monkey was unharmed with his protection. On the first day, the monkey could not stop squeaking around Yi Chen. For some reason, as it devoured many dark creatures in the black fog, many memories gradually appeared in its mind. These memories were very messy, and Yi Chen was vaguely among them. Therefore, for some reason, it felt upset when it saw Yi Chen's face. The more it looked at him, the more upset it became. The monkey extended its arms and knocked Yi Chen's head. The more it knocked, the more excited it became. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Who told you to make me unhappy? Who told you to have such an annoying face? Yi Chen did not move during the entire process, as if he was dead. The next day, Yi Chen still did not wake up. The monkey knocked Yi Chen's head as usual. It panicked when it saw that Yi Chen had not moved for a long time. Is this guy dead? Although he made this monkey feel displeased, he often gave this monkey pills to eat and even protected this monkey. The monkey scratched its head and disappeared into the forest. When it returned, it was holding some purple soil in its hand. Patter, patter! The cycle continued until the purple soil was the size of an adult's hand. Then, the monkey started to pee at the purple soil. The monkey rubbed the sticky soil all over Yi Chen's body. In the end, Yi Chen looked like a huge silkworm. Yi Chen was unaware of the entire process. The only thing he was aware of was the stench. It smelled like urine. What made him glad was that his body actually began to recover. On the 3rd day, Yi Chen regained consciousness again. This time he was more sensitive to his body than before. He could feel a pair of soft hands rubbing his body as if someone was taking care of him. On the 4th day, Yi Chen finally woke up and regained his consciousness completely. When he opened his heavy eyelids slowly, he saw an antique carriage. Patter, patter! The sound of horses' hooves could be heard from outside, as well as the sound of people talking and the coachman setting up the horses. Where is this? I remember that I fainted after walking out of the spatial rift, right? How did I appear in the carriage? Yi Chen frowned slightly. It was only then that he noticed that his clothes had been changed. He had changed into a long white robe, and there was a faint fragrance that belonged to a woman. Just as he was about to get up, the carriage suddenly stopped. In the next moment, the curtain was lifted, and a round face entered his sight. It was a woman in a light blue dress. She had almond-shaped eyes, willowy eyebrows, and an oval face. She looked like she was only 17 or 18 years old, but there was a hint of timidity between her brows. The girl was holding a food pot in her hand. When she noticed that Yi Chen had woken up, she was stunned at first. Then she said in surprise, "You're awake." Before Yi Chen could say anything, the girl jumped out of the carriage again. Her excited voice was getting further and further away. "Young mistress, Doctor Who, that gentleman is awake. That gentleman is awake." Yi Chen was stunned. A relaxed smile gradually appeared at the corner of his lips. Although he did not know what had happened, he could vaguely guess that someone had saved him. Not long after, with the sound of hurried footsteps, the curtain of the carriage was lifted again. It was an old man in his 50s or 60s dressed as an ancient doctor. Behind him was the girl from before and a young man in his 20s or 20s. The young man had a handsome face, but there was a frivolous expression between his brows. There was a hint of hostility in his eyes when he looked at Yi Chen. The old man Must be the doctor who that the girl was talking about. He bowed politely and said with a smile, "Young friend, can you let me check your injuries again?" Yi Chen nodded lightly and extended his hand. In reality, most of his injuries came from the spatial rift earlier. However, he had mostly recovered during the few days he was unconscious. Miracle, it's simply a miracle. Doctor who grabbed Yi Chen's arm gently. After checking his pulse carefully, he shook his head and said, "Young friend, you've suffered such a serious injury, but you're able to heal on your own. Moreover, you're recovering so quickly. I've never seen anything like this in my entire life." When the girl behind him heard that, her eyes narrowed into crescents. "Doctor Who? Are you saying that this mister's injuries have healed?" Doctor Who smiled. He's almost recovered. However, to be on the safe side, he still needs to rest for 3 days to see the effects. Humph. Doctor Who, since this brat has recovered, let's go back and reply to Kaiwei. It'll save some people from staying here. After the young man snorted coldly, he led Doctor Who out of the carriage, leaving only the girl from before. "Sir, you must be very hungry, right?" The girl twitched her nose and took 2 steps forward. She opened the food pot in her hand and said with a smile, "This is the chicken soup that young mistress specially ordered for you. Eat it quickly." After saying that, she seemed to have thought of something and said innocently, "By the way, sir, my name is Ju, or what's your name?" "I'm Shi Qianhan." Yi Chen smiled lightly. He used Shi Qianhan's name for no reason. After all, he did not know how he was or where he was. "Then I'll call you Brother Shi." Ju seemed to be very happy. She took the initiative to serve Yi Chen a bowl of chicken soup as she spoke. "Brother Shi, drink the chicken soup while it's hot. You've been unconscious for 3 days and 3 nights. You must be starving." Yi Chen did not reach out to take the bowl of chicken soup. Instead, he asked, "May I ask why I'm here?" Chapter 737. 3 days ago, we found you in the hidden fog swamp. You were lying unconscious on the ground, and your entire body was covered in mud. However, seeing that you were still breathing, the young mistress asked us to bring you into the carriage. Inside the carriage, Ju told him everything that had happened without concealing anything. Doctor Who said that you were seriously injured. We all thought that you were hopeless. I didn't expect that you would recover, Brother Shi. This should be what Miss often says. Heaven helps the worthy. Yi Chen came to a realization. The way he looked at Ju softened a little. He knew that it was this unsophisticated little girl who had been taking care of him while he was unconscious for the past few days. As for the young mistress that Jiu mentioned, she had only visited Yi Chen once since she saved him. Yi Chen did not care about that at all. After all, she had saved him out of kindness. She had done enough. At the same time, he also found out that the young mistress that Jiu mentioned had the surname Mu, and her full name was Mu Kaiwei. She was the daughter of some fort master of the King Mu Fort, and she had returned home to complete her marriage at her father's request. The only thing that puzzled him was that whether it was Jiu Doctor Who in the rest clothes, or even the carriage that he was riding in, everything showed that he was not on Earth. Yi Chen hesitated for a moment before asking, "By the way, Miss Jiu, did you guys find anyone else when you found me?" After he was forced out of the ghost ship, he did not know how Luo Tianya, Shi Qianhan, and the rest were doing. After all, no one knew the final destination of the ghost ship. "No, we only found a little monkey. The little monkey is so small, only the size of my palm. However, when we took you away, the little monkey kept following us and throwing stones at us." Ju chattered for a while, and her face darkened at the end of her sentence. She bit her lip and said, "Brother Shi, Doctor Who said that your martial vein is damaged. I'm afraid you won't be able to cultivate for the rest of your life." Martial vein? Yi Chen was slightly stunned. "That's right, it's a martial vein. I don't know what it is exactly, but only those with a martial vein can cultivate." At this point, her face was filled with admiration. "My young mistress has a martial vein, and she's very powerful." Even young Master Wang is not her match. Yi Chen gradually came to a realization. It seemed like the martial meridian was the cultivation method of the people in this world. Just like the spiritual root system, this world still respected the strong. However, he immediately shook his head. He was a dignified cultivator, so how could a mere doctor see through him? Just as he was speaking, a maidservant girl lifted the curtain of the carriage and said, "Our young miss is looking for you." "All right, Sister Yi, I'll be right there." After saying that to the young lady, turned to Yi Chen and said, "Brother Shi, young mistress is looking for me. Do you want to rest in the carriage or go out for a walk?" "I'll go with you." Yi Chen smiled lightly. He rejected Jiu's help and walked out of the carriage. What he saw was a convoy of dozens of people. Every single one of them was dressed in ancient clothes, and there was a camp on the ground. It was surrounded by mountains on all sides. When they saw him, many busy men lifted their heads to look at him. They shook their heads and went back to their work. Clearly, they knew that Yi Chen's martial vein was damaged and he could not cultivate. To them, everyone in the King Mu fort had to be able to cultivate to stay. Clearly, Yi Chen was destined to be abandoned. Looks like this really isn't Earth. Yi Chen secretly frowned as he looked around quietly. He vaguely heard people talking about the Laba festival. He could not help but walk over and ask one of the men who was sawing wood, "Brother, were you talking about the Laba festival?" The man said enthusiastically, "That's right. Isn't it the Laba festival tomorrow? So, we're all discussing if we can get home before noon tomorrow." Yi Chen asked again, "Is the Laba festival on the 8th of the 12th lunar month?" "Of course. There are 365 days in a year and 24 hours in a day. Of course. Are you out of your mind?" Yi Chen asked a series of questions in one breath until the hunk looked at him in a strange way. That's strange. Why is everything in this world so similar to Earth? Other than the absence of Christmas, Valentine's Day, and National Day, everything else is almost the same. Yi Chen ignored the man's gaze. His expression kept changing. Earth takes 365 days to complete a revolution, and it takes 24 hours to complete a rotation. Does this mean that this world is in the same orbit as Earth? But that's impossible. Yi Chen thought to himself. His eyes suddenly focused. Unless this world is on Earth, so everything is exactly the same as Earth. Yes, that must be it. Yi Chen suddenly became excited. If his guess was right, it would prove that it would not be difficult for him to return to Earth and his home. What? You still want to bring that piece of trash back to the King Mu fort? Just as he was deep in thought, an ear-piercing voice came from beside him. Yi Chen could not help but look over. He saw a few luxurious carriages less than 100 steps away, and there were a few figures standing next to the carriages. Jiu was among them. However, she was curled up and looking at a young man in front of her with fear on her face. Beside her stood a woman in white. The woman's figure was exceptionally hot, but she wore a veil on her face, revealing only a pair of charming phoenix eyes. Countless warriors in uniform stood around to protect the white-clothed woman. Everyone looked at the white-clothed woman with respect and admiration in their eyes. The young man glared at Jiu, with a livid face. "I strongly disagree. He's just a piece of trash who can't cultivate. We're already being very kind by saving his life. Why do we have to bring him back to the King Mu fort? Are we going to eat for free?" Jiu's face was filled with fear. She buried her head very low, as if she could not bear to say, but Brother Shi hasn't fully recovered from his injuries, and he doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. If we abandon him now, we'll harm him." The young man sneered. "You're just a servant yourself. What right do you have to pity others?" "Enough." The woman in white, who had been silent all this while, spoke coldly. Her voice was extremely cold. "Bring this person back to the King Mu fort. He can choose to stay or leave after he recovers. If he doesn't have a place to go, he can stay in the King Mu fort to do odd jobs. The young man's expression changed. Kai Wei, this person's identity is unknown. The woman in white looked at him coldly with an unyielding gaze. Do you need me to repeat myself? The young man was speechless. He did not dare to object any more, but there was a trace of anger hidden in the depths of his eyes. This was Wang Qingliang's good cousin. She would not go back on her word. Chapter 738. While they were talking, they noticed Yi Chen, who was far away. The lady in white glanced at him and turned to say to Ju, or next to her, "Let him come to my carriage. I have something to ask him." Inside an extremely luxurious carriage, Yi Chen sized up the lady in white before him at a close distance. Yi Chen studied the lady in white from a close distance. Even though her face was covered with a veil, Yi Chen could not see any secrets from her. He had to admit that apart from Su Yuhan, this was the second woman he had seen who was not inferior to Su Yuhan in terms of temperament or appearance. The only thing lacking was that there was no smile on the woman's face. She was like a snow mountain that did not melt all year round, looking very cold. While he was sizing up the lady as the daughter of the King Mu Fort's fort master, the #1 beauty in Tianfeng City, and even the entire Tianfeng Sea area, Mu Kaiwei was also sizing him up. Although her facial features were average, her temperament was not bad. Her gaze, when she looked at him, was not filled with possessiveness like the others. She nodded to herself. She, Mu Kaiwei, had a simple way of judging people. Unlike other women, she paid attention to a person's appearance and facial features. Sensing that the atmosphere in the carriage was a little strange, Yi Chen was the first to break the silence. "Thank you for saving my life, Ms. Mu." "You don't have to thank me." Mu Tsaiwei's beautiful eyes were cold as she said without gratitude. "The reason why I saved you was purely because Ju-er couldn't bear to see you die outside. She pleaded for you many times before I agreed." Yi Chen was stunned. "Ju-er?" "That's right. To be honest, no one agreed to let me save you. Only Jo-er pleaded for you. This girl has been adopted by the King Mu Fort since she was young. She has a weak personality and can't bear to see others live a bad life." Mu Kaiwei nodded slightly and said, "She's been taking care of you these days. For you, she, who has never been good at riding a horse, gave you the carriage and rode alone." Yi Chen was moved. Mu Kaiwei interrupted his thoughts and looked at him with a scrutinizing gaze. "Doctor who said that you were a martial artist before you were injured. To be able to survive such a serious injury, you must have been quite strong before, and your identity is not simple either. Now, shouldn't you talk about yourself?" Although she did not chase Yi Chen away for Ju-er's sake, it did not mean that she was soft-hearted. Her cousin was right. This person's identity was unknown, so she had to interrogate him. "I'm sure Chen Han. I was being chased by my enemies, so I had to escape into the hidden fog swamp. I didn't expect my injuries to act and fall to the ground." Yi Chen said the words that he had thought long ago. Mu Kaiwei kept staring at his face as if she was secretly trying to figure out the credibility of his words. However, to her disappointment, Yi Chen was a 1,000-year-old demon. How could she see through him? After hearing this, Mu Kaiwei was silent for a few seconds before asking, "What was your cultivation level before this?" Yi Chen said, "So he hasn't reached the innate realm. Yi at Mu, Chen Mu, Mu Chen, Shi, Chen he were was worry." She was worried that Yi Chen's identity was too complicated. It would easily bring disaster to the King Mu Fort. However, she was completely relieved after knowing that Yi Chen was only on illuminating pulse. After all, she was an innate stage master. Yi Chen said slowly, "I'd like to ask Ms. Mu for a map. I'll leave after I recover my strength. I won't trouble you guys." Right now, he had to figure out where he was so that he could think of a way to return to China. "I can give you the map." Mu Kaiwei frowned and said, "However, don't even think about recovering your cultivation. I've checked for you. Your martial vein has long been damaged, and you've lost all your cultivation. It's impossible for you to cultivate in this lifetime." At this point, she hesitated for a moment and said, "For Ju-Er's sake, you can come back to the King Mu fort with me. As for whether you stay or not, it's up to you." With that, she ordered them to leave. Yi-Chin was going to ask something, but he shook his head and walked out of the carriage in the end. A young man stood in the distance and saw everything. His eyes were filled with coldness. He seemed to have thought of something. He walked to Yi-Chen's side and said softly, "Let me introduce myself. My name is Wang Qingliang, Saiwei's cousin. I'm also the captain of the King Mu Fort's guards. I'm a master." Yi-Chen smiled lightly. "What are you trying to say?" Wang Qingliang smirked coldly and said, "Let me give you a piece of advice. Kaiwei isn't someone a piece of trash like you can touch. If you know what's good for you, disappear from her sight as soon as possible." He looked down at Yi-Chen condescendingly at the end of his sentence. "I know you were a cultivator in the past, but don't forget that even when you were at your peak, I could crush you like an ant." He turned around and left after saying that. Yi-Chen chuckled softly as he watched him leave. "Looks like he's another one of Mu Saiwei's secret admirers." After saying that, he walked towards his carriage. However, when he passed by a bush, he stopped in his tracks. There was a pile of feces under his feet. It was the feces of a demonic beast, and there were many around him. Demonic beast? There are demonic beasts in this world? Yi-Chen secretly frowned and suddenly said, "No, there's demon-luring powder on the demonic beast's feces." The so-called demon-luring powder was a powder refined from the demon-luring grass. Although it was harmless to humans, it was like a fatal poison to demonic beasts. Demon-luring powder was usually used to lure demonic beasts and kill them. However, Mu Saiwei's convoy was clearly just passing by this place. There was no need to waste time sprinkling demon-luring powder along the way. Yi-Chen took a good look at the carriage that Mu Kaiwei was in as he thought to this point. His eyes flickered a few times before he returned to the carriage. Not long after, the sky gradually darkened. Ju-Er entered the carriage with a deer leg and said with a blushing face, "Brother Shi, this is the deer that young Master Wang and the rest hunted earlier. Young mistress asked me to bring it to you." Yi-Chen glanced at her with a forced smile. "Did your young mistress ask you to bring it here, or did you secretly bring it here?" Ju-Er's face turned even redder. She lowered her head and stammered, not knowing what to say. Yi-Chen took the deer leg and cut it into two. He handed half of it to her and said with a smile, "Let's eat together." Ju-Er nodded and asked as she ate, "Brother Shi, did young mistress say anything to you?" Her expression turned gloomy at the end of her sentence. "Brother Shi, if young mistress said anything unpleasant, I hope you won't take it to heart. Young mistress is actually cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. She's quite nice to us." Yi-Chen looked out through the window of the carriage meaningfully while eating the deer leg. "Ju-Er, don't walk around tonight. Stay by my side." "Huh? Stay by your side?" Ju-Er was stunned at first, but she seemed to have thought of something. Her pretty face turned even redder, as if it was dripping blood. Yi-Chen did not care what she was thinking. He looked at the bright moon in the sky through the window and looked a little sad. "Everyone at home probably thinks I'm dead now, right? Dad, Mom Yuhan, and baby Meng Meng." Ju-Er peeked at him secretly when she saw that he had suddenly stopped talking. Her heart ached for no reason when she saw the vicissitudes in Yi-Chen's eyes. The little girl's thoughts were running wild. She was both disappointed and complicated. Brother Shi must be missing the person he likes. Under the silent moonlight, most of the people in the campsite were asleep. Only a dozen or so Mu family warriors who were in charge of guarding the night looked around vigilantly. The bonfire in the middle of the campsite crackled from time to time. After some time, Ju-Er, who was in a daze, dozed off. She actually leaned her head against Yi-Chen's arm, subconsciously. A shocking roar suddenly came from the depths of the forest. Yi-Chen, who was resting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes at that moment. So it's finally here! Chapter 739. As if to verify his conjecture, the entire ground began to shake violently as he murmured. It was as if there were thousands of troops and horses galloping over. Roar, roar, roar. The roars of demonic beasts that made one's heart palpitate were getting closer and closer. Waves of blood and violence came from the depths of the forest. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! This sudden scene immediately shocked the dozen or so Mu family warriors in charge of guarding the night. Their expressions changed, and they immediately sounded the alarm. At this moment, a few huge figures had already rushed over. Before a few Mu family warriors could react, they were immediately trampled into pieces. They were giant beasts that were close to 2 meters in size. Their fur was ferocious, and they looked a little like wild boars. However, the fangs at the corner of their mouths were like 2 extremely sharp spears. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh! This commotion also woke up the rest of the people who were sleeping. In an instant, countless figures rushed out of the tent. The leader was Mu Kaiwei, who was dressed in white, and Wang Changliang, who was in charge of guarding. Damn it, it's actually the explosive boar. In the crowd, Mu Tsaiwei's pretty face changed. The explosive boar was a rank 3 demonic beast. Not only were they powerful, each of them was an adult explosive boar, and their strength was around the illuminating pulse. There were at least 40 to 50 of them in front of her. If they swarmed her, even she would find it difficult to deal with them. Someone asked in confusion, "Why did these explosive boars suddenly attack us? You have to know that we've never provoked them. It must be that sure brat who attracted them." Wang Changliang immediately gritted his teeth and shouted, "Kaiwei, I told you long ago that that brat's background was unknown. We shouldn't have saved him." "Great. Shut up." Mu Kaiwei shouted coldly. Seeing that too many of her subordinates had died, she immediately shouted, "Everyone listen to my orders. Set up the formation." As her voice fell, the Mu family warriors, who were originally in a mess, immediately became spirited. Then they lined up in an orderly manner and erupted with strength, killing the few explosive boars that were charging at the front on the spot. Yi Qin, who was sitting in the carriage, secretly nodded when he saw that. He had to admit that Mu Kaiwei was very smart. She knew that panicking would only cause worse. "Bring me my armor." Mu Kaiwei stretched out her hand, and someone quickly walked over with a golden armor. "Martial masters above the meridian opening realm, charge with me. The rest of you, support us. No one is allowed to escape. Anyone who disobeys will be killed." After putting on the armor, Mu Tsaiwei's aura suddenly changed. She took a step forward, and behind her, there were more than 10 illuminating pulse warriors. It had to be said that the current Mu Kaiwei did not match her poetic name at all. Dressed in golden armor and holding a long spear, she charged directly into the herd of explosive porcupine, killing everything in her way. The people behind her seemed to be infected by her, and they were not afraid of death. Yi Qin chose to watch from the sidelines and did not attack. After all, in the eyes of Mu Kaiwei and the others, he was trash that couldn't cultivate. If he were to reveal his strength rashly, then not only would he not obtain their gratitude, he would instead arouse their fear. Wang Qingze suddenly glared at the carriage that Yi Chen was in. His lips moved slightly as if he was talking to someone. Roar! At the next moment, an earth-shattering roar was heard. An explosive boar abandoned everyone and charged at the carriage that Yi Chen was in. Oh no! Sensing this scene, Mu Tsaiwei's pretty face changed. She wanted to free up her hand to stop the explosive boar, but she was held back by the herd of explosive boars. At the critical moment, she threw the spear in her hand at the explosive porcupine that was charging at Yi Chen and the rest. "Brother Shi, I'm afraid." Jewel, who was in the carriage, was terrified when she saw such a terrifying beast attacking. Clearly, she had never experienced such a scene before. Yi Chen smiled lightly. "Close your eyes if you're afraid." In a panic, Ju or immediately closed her eyes. Meanwhile, the explosive porcupine was less than 3 meters away from the carriage. At that moment, Yi Chen secretly scoffed coldly. His divine consciousness surged out of his mudball palace. An invisible pressure immediately attacked the explosive porcupine. Freeze! The explosive porcupine froze under Yi Chen's pressure, but it could not move at all. It was as if it had been immobilized by the body immobilization spell. At the same time, a spear shot over from afar and pierced through the explosive porcupine. Roar! With a shrill scream, boiling blood splattered, and the explosive porcupine fell to the ground and died. Mu Kaiwei, who was far away, also noticed this scene. She heaved a sigh of relief, but at the same time, she was puzzled. She did not know if it was an illusion, but she clearly saw the explosive porcupine suddenly stop when it was about to approach the carriage that Yi Chen was in. It was at that moment that the spear she threw killed the explosive porcupine. She took a good look at the carriage that Yi Chen was in and pursed her red lips. Maybe it's my illusion. At that moment, more than 10 figures suddenly rushed out of the forest. Each of their auras caused many people to tremble. Mu Kaiwei shouted coldly, "Who are you?" Clap, clap, clap. As the sound of applause rang out, a sinister-looking man slowly walked out from the group of over a dozen figures. Miss Mu is indeed worthy of being the #1 beauty of the Tianfeng Sea region. The world only cares about your beauty and ignores your combat strength. Mu Tsaiwei's heart sank when she heard the other party reveal her identity. She realized that the other party had probably come prepared. She immediately shouted, "Who exactly are you?" Especially when the other party was actually a martial Dao master. This made her heart sink completely. "Ms. Mu, your father, King Mu, dared to reject my master's marriage proposal. He's simply looking down on my master." The sinister-looking man snorted and said, "Today, on my master's orders, come with us obediently. You're a beauty after all, so don't force me to fight you. Otherwise, you'll have to suffer some physical pain." "Are you from the 7 Mysteries Mansion?" Mu Tsaiwei's beautiful eyes narrowed, and then she snorted coldly. "Your 7 Mysteries Mansion really thinks highly of me. You actually set up such a trap. It seems like Ms. Mu is unwilling to cooperate." The sinister-looking man's expression turned cold, and an endless chill flashed in his eyes. "Since that's the case, then don't blame us. Other than Ms. Mu, don't leave anyone else alive." As soon as he finished speaking, the dozen or so grandmasters behind him rushed towards the convoy with killing intent on their faces. The expressions of the people on the caravan changed. Then cries of despair rang out. Chapter 740. How dare you? Mu Tsaiwei's expression was finally in a mess. These people were the most loyal to the King Mu Fort. They had been loyal to the King Mu Fort for generations. So how could she sit back and watch as these people were killed? In the next moment, she clenched her jade-like hand, and an extreme crescent mark erupted from the depths of her palm. The crescent mark was like ice, and as soon as it appeared, it transformed into a stream of light that attacked the dozen or so martial Dao masters. The person at the front felt a chill on his neck, and then he covered his neck and retreated repeatedly. Streams of scarlet blood sprayed out from his neck. Bang! A martial Dao master had died. This sudden scene immediately caused the expressions of the others to change. They subconsciously stopped in their tracks, afraid that they would end up like that person. Even so, Mu Tsaiwei's face was terrifyingly pale, as if the attack just now had consumed too much of her energy. Interesting. I didn't expect that old thing, King Mu, to be willing to give his spirit weapon to you. The malicious-looking man was also extremely surprised. After seeing the crescent mark clearly, he could not help but sneer and say, "If your father was here, I might have to be wary of him. However, I'm afraid just one spirit weapon isn't enough." As soon as he finished speaking, a cold glint flashed in the depths of his eyes. His palm suddenly clenched towards the crescent mark, and a majestic suction force swept out from his palm, forcefully taking away the crescent mark. Black. After the spirit weapon's imprint was forcefully erased, Mukaiwei could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood due to the damage to her mind. A bunch of trash. Why aren't you attacking? The malicious-looking man's cold snort rang out, and the remaining dozen or so martial Dao masters charged towards the crowd again. No, don't. Mu Tsaiwei's face turned even paler. She used all her strength to flash towards the dozen or so martial Dao masters, as if she wanted to stop them. Ms. Mu, your opponent is me. At this moment, the malicious-looking man's figure flashed and instantly blocked her path. He extended his hand and grabbed at Mu Kaiwei. Get lost. In her rage, Mu Tsaiwei's white sleeve suddenly expanded, and it carried a cold aura as it charged towards the malicious-looking man. However, she was shocked to find out that her attack was easily broken by her opponent. She could not help but cry out, "Venerable one, you're a venerable one." The malicious-looking man smiled disdainfully and extended his hand towards Mu Kaiwei. I've already said, Miss Mu, you should obediently follow me back. Does the heavens want me, Mu Kaiwei, to die? Mu Tsaiwei's heart was filled with despair. In the entire King Mu fort, only her father and the Grand Elder were at the venerable stage. She did not expect the Seven Mysteries Mansion to send a venerable to deal with her. Kill. Protect the young miss. The eyes of the warriors of the King Mu fort were bloodshot. They fearlessly charged towards the dozen or so martial Dao masters that had leaped over. They had been worshipped by the King Mu fort for generations. Whether it was the fort master or the young mistress, Mu Kaiwei, they had never mistreated them. Today was the day he would repay her with his body. Joer burst into tears. Miss, at that moment, an extremely shrill scream was heard. A bloody mark suddenly appeared between the brows of a martial Dao master who was charging at the front. Under everyone's shocked gazes, that person's body suddenly exploded and turned into a mist of blood. What's going on? The people of the King Mu fort, who were originally in despair, could not help but be stunned, especially the group of Mu family warriors who were prepared to risk their lives to save Mu Kaiwei. The Mu family still has powerhouses. The malicious-looking man's expression changed. He immediately looked around, but he could not see anything. He could not help but sneer. Someone who hides his head and shows his tail. I don't think he's that strong. Kill them all. The remaining 10 martial Dao masters had just moved when 2 more screams rang out. 2 of their bodies split open on the spot, as if they had been split into 2 by a sword. A hint of anticipation appeared in Mu Tsaiwei's despairing eyes. And my father is here? Or is it the Grand Elder? Who is it? Who dares to kill my people? The malicious-looking man roared repeatedly. Bang, bang, bang. At that moment, the remaining 8 martial Dao masters exploded at the same time, turning into a mist of blood that filled the sky. Dead silence. The entire world was dead silent. The 8 martial Dao masters were killed in the blink of an eye. At that moment, a chill emerged in the malicious-looking man's heart. He could not help but cup his fists and say, Who exactly are you? I'm from the Seven Mysteries Mansion. I hope you can give the Seven Mysteries Mansion some face and not meddle in other people's business. Mu Kaiwei also looked around, trying to find out who exactly would help her. Yi Qin, who was in the carriage, smiled lightly. An extremely old voice exploded in everyone's ears. I'm the Patriarch of Hell. I happened to pass by this place and saw so many of you bullying a weak woman, so I lent a hand. The Patriarch of Hell? The malicious-looking man was at a loss when he heard that. The Seven Mysteries Mansion had been in the Tianfengxi area for so many years and could be considered an overlord. However, he had never heard of the Patriarch of Hell. However, in the next moment, an unconcealable storm surged on his face. Voice transmission. It was a voice transmission through the air. only Origin Energy Realm spell masters or high-level venerables would be able to achieve such a feat. He was not the only one. Even Mu Kaiwei was stunned. The malicious-looking man became even more fearful. He took a deep breath in and said, "Senior, I'm from the Seven Mysteries Mansion." I hope the aged voice was like a thunderclap from the 9 heavens that shook everyone's ears. I don't know anything about the 7 Profound Mansion or the 8 Profound Mansion. Hurry up and F***CK off before this ancestor gets angry. Otherwise, you don't have to leave. All right, I'll leave now. The malicious-looking man was also an indecisive person. He immediately let go of Mu Kaiwei and turned to leave. Wait, the voice rang out again. The malicious-looking man's body stiffened as he turned around and said, "Senior, did you forget to leave something behind? Your hand touched that girl just now. Leave a hand behind before you leave." Hearing such overbearing words, the malicious-looking man's face turned furious. He gritted his teeth and forcefully tore off his left arm. He endured the pain and said, "Senior, can I leave now?" "Get lost." The malicious-looking man felt as if he had been pardoned. He left quickly without looking back, turning into an afterimage and disappearing into the sky. He roared repeatedly, damn it, where did this old monster come from?" He killed more than 10 martial Dao masters in the blink of an eye. Even if this old monster isn't a pseudo-emperor, he's probably infinitely close to one. After he left, the place was still dead silent. Everyone's expressions were dull, and they felt like their minds were buzzing. He killed more than 10 martial Dao masters in the blink of an eye. He forced a venerable to sever his own arm with just a single sentence. He even fled thousands of kilometers away. How terrifying was this? P.S. Chapter 5. Today's update is over. Thank you for your support. Please give me monthly votes and recommendation votes. The book review section has been very lively recently. Some people are scolding me, and some are encouraging me. I've seen all of that. After all, even celebrities have people who like to scold them. For those who scold me, I will reflect on my own problems and try to correct them. For those who encourage me, I will work harder and repay everyone with updates. Thank you. Chapter 741. In the camp where the people of the King Mu Fort were staying for the night, the ground was covered in the corpses of the explosive boars, and there was no lack of King Mu Fort warriors who had been torn apart by the explosive boars. The pungent smell of blood filled the air, making one feel nauseous. The people of the King Mu Fort heaved a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted off their shoulders. With the departure of the venerable stage man from the Seven Mysteries Mansion, the killing intent in the dark night had finally been completely removed. Even so, everyone was still in shock. If it were not for the mysterious powerhouse called the Patriarch of Hell, all of them would have died tonight. Mu Kaiwei, who had snapped out of her daze, bowed deeply to her surroundings and said gratefully, "Mu Kaiwei of the King Mu Fort thanks Senior for saving us. Please show yourself, Senior. The entire King Mu Fort will be extremely grateful." The rest also looked around when they heard that. However, the surroundings were silent. There was not even half a person, let alone anyone. Looks like this Senior really passed by accident. He must have left by now. Forget it. Perhaps we don't have the fortune to meet Senior's heavenly face. Mu Kaiwei was slightly disappointed, and then she gave the order to everyone. Collect all the corpses of the people who died in the battle. Everyone check the carriage. If there's no problem, we'll leave overnight. After settling everything, she walked slowly to the carriage where Yi Chan was. "Jiu, are you all right?" Although she only cared about Jiu on the surface, her beautiful eyes still glanced at Yi Chin, who was next to Jiu secretly. However, Yi Chin looked calm, as if the dangerous scene earlier did not affect him at all. "Young mistress, I am fine." Jiu finally snapped back to her senses and threw herself into Mu Tsaiwei's embrace. She said while trembling, "Young mistress, I thought you... It's good that you're fine. Pack up. For safety's sake, we can't stay here anymore. We have to leave overnight. Mu Kaiwei comforted her for a while before leaving. Not long after, the convoy set off again. This time, all the warriors of the King Mu fort were on high alert, afraid that the situation earlier would happen again. Fortunately, there were no accidents along the way. During that period, the old man called Doctor, who came over to examine Yi Qin again. Yi Qin was very cooperative. After Doctor, who left, a smirk appeared at the corner of Yi Chen's lips. What a young mistress of the Mu family! She's not inferior to ordinary men. She's actually suspecting me. Initially, he did not want to make a move earlier. However, when he thought about how Mu Kaiwei had saved him and how he still needed to understand this world through the King Mu fort in the future, he made a move to intimidate the venerable stage powerhouse from the Seven Mysteries mansion. In a luxurious carriage, Doctor, who told her everything that had happened to Yi Qin. Miss, I'm sure the young man's martial vein is severely damaged. There's no trace of cultivation base in his body at all. I got it. You can go now. Of King of, Mu King of Clan, Master of Li Chen, Mu of Spirit Li, of Mu of Clan, Mu of King of Chaos of the Yang, of Mu Clan of Chin of King of, he of the Mu of Yang of. It was impossible for him to be Yi Qin. She was even more certain of her guess. She frowned and said, But who is this senior who calls himself the Patriarch of Hell? The next morning, the convoy arrived at Tianfeng City safely. There was already a group of people waiting at the city gate. The leader was a middle-aged man in a dragon costume. His brows were filled with sharpness and dignity. However, he seemed to be injured, and his face was slightly pale. However, the surrounding onlookers looked at him with incomparable respect. It was because the man was one of the 5 powerhouses of Tianfeng City. He could be said to be an overlord, and he was also the master of the King Mu fort, King Mu. At this moment, a warrior of the King Mu fort walked over excitedly. Fort Master, young mistress's convoy has arrived. Kaiwei and the rest are here so soon? Quick, quick. Everyone, come with me to welcome them. A hint of joy flashed across King Mu's dignified face when he heard that. He then led the dozens of people behind him out of the city gate. Mu Kaiwei walked out of the carriage. Father! Noticing that her face was slightly pale, King Mu's gaze turned cold. You're injured? Who hurt you? Father, let's talk when we get back. Tianfeng City was a huge coastal city with a population of hundreds of people. The King Mu fort was one of the existences that controlled the lives of millions of people. Yi Qin followed the servants of the King Mu fort. Along the way, he saw a lot of carriages and people coming and going. It gave him a feeling as if he was in an ancient capital. What surprised him even more was that many people in the city were cultivators. Even the owners of roadside stalls were internal energy martial artists. Half an hour later, in the study of the King Mu fort. Kacha! King Mu held a cup in his hand. He exerted force in his palm, and the cup instantly turned into powder. His face was filled with a cold gleam. Kaiwei, are you saying that you encountered an attack from the Seven Mysteries mansion along the way? Mu Kaiwei nodded slightly and said, I'm not sure if they're from the Seven Mysteries mansion. However, the leader is a venerable stage powerhouse, and he even snatched away the spirit weapon that you gave me to protect myself. He snatched away my spirit weapon with one hand? King Mu's expression was slightly solemn. Then he must be a venerable stage cultivator. As for whether he's from the Seven Mysteries mansion, we still need to investigate. If he's really from the Seven Mysteries mansion, I'll seek an explanation even if I have to risk my life. At this point, he took a deep breath in and said, How did you come back? Logically speaking, you're only at the innate stage, so it's impossible for you to be a match for that venerable stage powerhouse. Mu Kaiwei then told him what had happened. The Patriarch of Hell? After King Mu heard that, he immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. He killed more than 10 innate stage martial artists without making a sound, and forced a venerable stage powerhouse to sever his own arm and flee 1,000 kilometers away with a single sentence. A storm surged in his heart. One had to know that even as a top-notch venerable, he could not kill dozens of innate stage martial artists without exposing himself. Kai Wei, this person must be a pseudo-emperor or even an emperor stage powerhouse. Thinking to this point, King Mu said with slight regret, "It's a pity that such a powerhouse only passed by accident. Otherwise, I would have been able to get to know him. Who knows? Our King Mu fort might even be able to regain the glory of our ancestors." Mu Kai Wei sighed softly. She thought the same way. Right. King Mu seemed to have thought of something, and suddenly asked, "On the way back, I heard from Changliang that you saved someone of unknown origin along the way." Chapter 742. Yes. Mu Kai Wei told him everything about how she saved Yi-Chin. She added at the end, "I've been secretly observing this person along the way. I realized that there's nothing unusual about him. However, his calmness in the face of danger makes me feel inferior. No matter where this person comes from," King Mu said, "when it rains, it pours. We can't accept people of unknown origins. After he recovers from his injuries, give him some money and let him leave. That can be considered as being extremely benevolent." Mu Kai Wei nodded and turned around to leave. In the end, King Mu could not help but say, "Kai Wei, the city governor's mansion came to propose to you again today." Mu Tsai Wei's body stiffened, and her pretty face faintly showed some pain. However, she still said without turning her head, "Then how did father reply?" His daughter's back caused King Mu's heart to ache. He had always felt guilty towards his daughter. He had a son and a daughter, and Mu Kai Wei was his eldest daughter. Logically speaking, in such a family, women would have married long ago. However, the King Mu fort was a vassal that was given to Tianfeng City by the first emperor of the Great Li Dynasty. After so many years, the King Mu fort had prospered from generation to generation. However, things had changed in this generation. The current emperor of the Great Li Dynasty had implemented a vassal system and frequently reaped the benefits of the various vassals. Therefore, he had specially sent the most loyal officials to every city to serve as the city governor to keep the vassals in check. He had a son named Mu Junyan. Logically speaking, the King Mu fort would be passed down to him in the future. However, Mu Junyan had been found to have no martial veins since he was young, so he could not cultivate. When he had just become an adult, he went out hunting and was shot by someone, crippling his legs. He was destined to sit in a wheelchair for the rest of his life as a piece of trash waiting to die. Fortunately, his eldest daughter, Mu Kai Wei, was more promising than her younger brother. She had displayed good cultivation talent since she was young. Coupled with her early maturity, she had taken over all the businesses in the King Mu fort. The King Mu fort had integrated the hard work of its ancestors, and had always adhered to the concept of passing it down to males and not females. It was because it was afraid that the 1,000-year-old business would fall into the hands of outsiders and end its inheritance. Mu Kai Wei also knew about her family situation, so she had never married. She was determined to sacrifice her happiness to protect her younger brother and the King Mu fort. Father didn't refuse, but he didn't agree either. King Mu opened his mouth and said bitterly, "However, you're a woman after all. You have to pursue your own happiness, right?" "Father, I was born as a member of the King Mu fort, and I'll die as a ghost of the King Mu fort." Mu Kai Wei suddenly turned around and looked at King Mu quietly. "Moreover, it's not like you don't know that whether it's the Seven Mysteries Mansion or the City Governor's Mansion, the reason they've taken a liking to my daughter is because they want to speed up the collapse of my King Mu fort and seize the Spirit Fog Island under my King Mu fort." At the end of her sentence, a hint of determination flashed across her heart-wrenching, pretty face. "That's why I won't marry anyone. Don't worry, I'll definitely work hard to cultivate and protect the King Mu fort for Junyan. I'm going to visit Junyan. Without waiting for King Mu's reply, she left after saying that. King Mu said bitterly, "It's all my fault. I'm useless. If I had the strength of the Patriarch of Hell, who in the entire Tianfengxi area would dare to bully my King Mu fort, even a king would have to think twice." After Yi Chen checked into the King Mu fort, he was arranged to stay in a guest room that the servants of the fort lived in. The guest room was relatively simple, but had sent him many daily necessities. "I wonder where the monkey went." Yi Chen sat on the bed with his legs crossed and said, while deep in thought, "What I need to figure out now is where exactly I am. Only then can I think of a way to return to China." He slowly walked out of the room and strolled around the courtyard of the King Mu fort. At the same time, he spread out his divine consciousness. Every blade of grass and tree in the entire King Mu fort was under his perception. It had to be said that the King Mu fort was indeed worthy of being the overlord of Tianfeng City. Not only did they have many subordinates in the fort, they were also quite powerful. There were more than 10 martial Dao masters among them. With such strength, they would be an overlord in China. "Who is it?" Right at this moment, a loud shout came from afar. Following that, a young man led more than 10 people over quickly. Every single one of them was wearing the uniform of the King Mu fort, and the one leading them was Wang Chengliang. "So it's you." Wang Chengliang's eyes turned cold when he saw that it was Yi Chen. "Why are you walking around instead of staying in your room? Are you trying to spy on the secrets of the King Mu fort?" "Men, take him down." He waved his hand after saying that. An illuminating pulse martial artist walked toward Yi Chen quickly. Yi Chen's gaze turned cold. Just when he was about to punish him, a cold voice came from behind him. "What's the commotion about?" At the next moment, Mu Kaiwei, who had already changed into a plain dress, walked over. At this moment, her temperament had changed once again. If the woman in white from before was an icy beauty, then she now had a hint of tenderness and weakness. As she appeared, the gazes of the dozen or so King Mu fort guards, including Wang Chengliang, became dazed. "Kaiwei!" Wang Chengliang pointed at Yi Chen immediately and added fuel to the fire. "This brat is an outsider. It's one thing for us to take him in out of kindness, but he's actually sneaking around in the King Mu fort. I suspect that he's trying to spy on the secrets of the King Mu fort." Mu Kaiwei pursed her red lips and looked at Yi Chen with a scrutinizing expression. "Really?" Yi Chen smiled lightly. "Ms. Mu, I'm bored, so I want to take a look at your Mu family's library. I want to see if there's any way to repair my martial vein." Seeing that he had not given up, Mu Kaiwei frowned slightly. However, she still called an old man over and instructed, "Uncle Hai, bring him to the King Mu fort's library. Only 1 floor." "Yes, young mistress." The loyal servant, called Uncle Hai, glanced at Yi Chen in surprise. He then led Yi Chen away under Wang Chengliang's cold gaze. Wang Chengliang could not help but say, "Kaiwei, this person's background is unknown. Why did you allow him to enter the library?" "What if?" At this moment, Jiu walked over quickly and said while panting, "Young mistress, bad news, bad news. The people from the city governor's mansion are here again." "What?" Mu Kaiwei's expression changed, and she immediately turned around and left. After Wang Chengliang watched her leave, his expression changed a few times. He secretly gritted his teeth and said, haven't I been nice to you all these years? It's fine if you're not nice to me, but you're taking care of a piece of trash. Just you wait. When the King Mu fort is completely destroyed, watch how I torture you. I'll take back everything I gave you from you and make you wish you were dead."